personality, like this and that. But then there's but. That's sort of the opposite. Not this, but that. Then there's or. O-R. You have a choice, like this or that. And but nor gets you pretty far. Walking up to Las Vegas, thinking about running. Milk and honey, bread, butter, peas and rice. Hey, that's nice. Dirty but happy, fitting and scratch. Losing your shoe and a button or two. He's more than on sad but true. Too close to water, say something like either now or later, or no choice. Neither now nor ever. Hey, that's clever. So that if I never ever act that, I don't wanna be bad. Walking our ways, walls that land out of my way and into the fire. No sin that's not the moon going by. As we exit the down to the seas, you should always say what you say will be. I'm working on words, phrases, thoughts, and conversations. In the morning, when I'm usually wide awake, I love to take a walk in the garden and down by the lake, or also see the ducks and gander. And I wonder as I walk by just what they say if they could see, although I know that's the reason why.
You need a mic. You need to put your mic on.
Well, every person you can know, and every place that you can go, and any that you can show, you know they're nice. That's a special kind of word, it's a key. Never heard I find it. Oh, I dream of another day. For one that I saw was really great. When I saw something, it's chasing the green. I was wishing I was back home again. The train to another state. Well, every person you can know. You're an engineer. Every person you can know.
Like a state.
Anything that you can show. You know they're now. You know they're now. Oh, I know you're such a I bet friend. She's a very fairy. For a long time, I didn't know it. That summer was well, every person you can know.
Like a friend.
Or the captain of a ship.
A fairy or snow. machine.
No, they're not. Pronouns are special kind of fun. It's any a place or thing you really I was scared. Thanks. Yeah.
Theater. Schoolhouse Rock. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks.
Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of November 14, 2024 to order. I'd like to thank our live simultaneous Spanish interpreters for joining us tonight. We're also live streaming our meeting. If you are here in person tonight, you got to hear our wonderful student performers from Carmody Middle School that joined us to perform a selection from Schoolhouse Rock. I think everybody enjoyed it. I don't know if we ever had a complete clap for them. It was wonderful, and we want to thank the theater arts teacher, Maria Yost, who was responsible for bringing those wonderful students to us. And it's always such a pleasure to see firsthand the extraordinary student experiences going on in our community. Roll call, please, Ms. Zavada.
Ms. Applegate?
Here.
Ms. Kenworthy?
Here.
Ms. Parker?
Here.
Ms. Reed?
Here.
Dr. Varda?
Here. Every month, the Board of Education has the pleasure of recognizing students, staff, community members, and schools. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I've just been out of order here. Would you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Every month, the Board of Education has the pleasure of recognizing students, staff, community members, and schools for their achievements and contributions to our community. So we will move into the honors and recognition. For the first recognition of the evening, it will be for Normandy Elementary School. We actually have two phases to Normandy to explain the wonderful success that they've had academically. And so, let's see, is Principal Andrea Cousins here? Do we? Okay. Excuse me, Ms. Cousins. I think my script is out of order. I don't see it. We've already did it.
You did it.
Okay. Thank you.
You did it before we went.
Yes. So I apologize, for the confusion. We actually had an executive session, so we've done some of this preliminary work already in the beginning beforehand. So we are ready to go into the recognition. So Ms. Cousins, you can please come on up. And anyone else did you bring from your school, your wonderful teachers, if they would join you? So I'm just going to go and read the combined recognitions here for Normandy Elementary School. Normandy Elementary School's guiding philosophy is to actively engage the whole child in core knowledge, personalized literacy and math instruction, and school-wide arts, physical education, and social-emotional development to ensure all students reach their full potential. The school's academic results affirm the hard work of Normandy students, educators, families, and community in creating a safe and welcoming school where students master challenging and engaging content. Academic bright spots include kindergarten 2024 MAP scores. In math, their MAP achievement percentile was 82, and their math reading achievement percentile was 84. MAP tests are designed to measure students' academic growth in the key subjects of math, reading, and language arts. In second grade, the median growth percentile on MAP was 84, third highest in all of Jeffco in third grade. In third grade, Normandy students achieved the highest achievement for the entire district, with 86% of students achieving the meets or exceeds level of CMath in math. Normandy's staff engages students in literacy and math skills by incorporating them throughout library content, art, music, and PE, which has helped students draw connections between academic content, healthy habits, fine arts, and the real world. The Normandy Special Education Team has supported student growth across grade levels, and students in 4th and 5th grade observed a sizable increase in growth both on MAP and CMAS. Please join us in recognizing Normandy Elementary and the leadership of Principal Andrea Cousins and her wonderful math teachers. I want to get the names of the teachers that have joined you. Is Coach Jeanette Reed here? Okay. Online, well, congratulations to her. Let's see, who else do we have? We got Heidi and Aaron. So Heidi Myers and Aaron Joralman, in recognition of their 3rd grade math achievement scores. So you, Heidi, and Aaron are here. Thank you so much. Who else do we have here, Andrea? Okay, welcome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. And this is one of my schools, so I get to give out the awards. Okay, and for our next recognition of the evening, I'm going to hand it over to Director Kenworthy.
Thank you, Director Parker. Next, the Board of Education is pleased to honor the following Colorado SHAPE Award recipients for their outstanding contributions in the fields of health and physical education. Amy Flynn, Assistant Director of Electives, for being awarded Administrator of the Year. Jamie Scarcliffe, PE Teacher at Golden High School, for being awarded High School Teacher of the Year. Brian Wickerin, Adapted PE Teacher, for being awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award. And finally, Katie Spirek, for being awarded Adapted PE Teacher of the Year. Unfortunately, Jamie is unable to join us tonight. Will Amy, Brian, and Katie please join us at the front of the room to receive the Our People, Our Strength recognition? Woohoo! The SHAPE Colorado is a professional organization for health and physical educators that is committed to advocating for quality physical education, health education, and physical activity resources throughout the state of Colorado and in the nation. The Colorado SHAPE Award Ceremony is a statewide, highly competitive accomplishment that honors teachers for their outstanding achievements and contributions in the field of physical education through a lens of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Amy, Assistant Director of Electives, and Katie, Central-based Adapted PE Teacher, were selected to receive the 2024 SHAPE Colorado Administrator and Teacher of the Year Awards and were recognized by their peers for their outstanding contributions at the SHAPE Colorado State Convention this October. Brian, District Adapted PE Teacher, received the prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award. Brian has devoted his career to developing a quality adapted physical education curriculum designed to be modified to address the unique needs of individual students. His program ensures students have access to participate in physical education regardless of physical, cognitive, or emotional ability. In the words of Dave Yonke, District PE Coordinator, Brian works tirelessly to advocate for the educational rights and needs of our differently abled students. This recognition embodies Jeffco's value of equity, especially when it comes to viewing individual differences as assets to be leveraged, as we all help students thrive. Please join us in heartily congratulating Amy, Katie, and Brian for this important recognition and their commitment to providing a quality, inclusionary physical education experience for our Jeffco students. And now I will hand it over to Director Applegate.
Thank you, Director Kenworthy. The Board of Education is pleased to recognize District Nurse Ashley Lavalley for providing outstanding health services to our schools. Will Ashley please join us at the front of the room to receive the Our People, Our Strength recognition? So joining the Jeffco nursing team this year, Ashley is already having a huge impact on the health and well-being of the students at her designated schools. In September, Ashley received a shout out from her director for saving the life of a Rooney Ranch elementary school student that was choking on food in the cafeteria. It was, yeah, right? Like, let's give a hands up for that. It was noted that Ashley quickly went into action and performed the Heimlich maneuver to dislodge the stuck food item. In the words of Tanya Weaver, Director of Health Services, we are very proud to have this new addition to our team of nurses to ensure the safety and well-being of our students. It's acts like this that highlight how essential school nurses are to the well-being and overall health of our students. They are dedicated healthcare professionals who work in collaboration with families, schools, and communities to develop and promote comprehensive healthcare programs for our youth. Every school in Jeffco has a district registered nurse that consults with students, parents, school staff, and administration to provide optimum school health. Please join us in celebrating Ashley for providing outstanding health services to the students and communities she served. It's truly inspirational to hear of the valuable contributions made by our dedicated school nurses who work in our schools to ensure our students maximize their academic experiences through consistent healthcare. And now I will hand it to Director Reed.
Thank you very much. For our final celebration of the evening, the Board of Education is pleased to honor and recognize Christina Manthe and the Women's League of Voters for Jefferson County for their efforts to promote pre-voter and voter registration awareness for our community. Will Christina please join us at the front of the room to receive the Our Community, Our Legacy recognition? The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots organization working to protect and expand voting rights and ensure everyone is represented in our democracy. They empower voters and defend democracy through advocacy, education, and litigation at the local, state, and national levels. The Jefferson County chapter of Women's League of Voters envisions a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. The League is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties. The Women's League of Voters has provided valuable contributions in the area of voter registration and pre-voter registration outreach for our Jeffco students, families, and the greater community. I would like to mention that at one of my high school student town halls, my discussion was followed by a discussion of the Women's League on voter registration awareness, and I found that empowering, that we're intentionally providing community resources to inform our students on the electoral process. Please join us in celebrating Christina Manthe and the Jefferson County Women's League of Voters for championing programs and initiatives that build community and promote voter awareness for Jeffco students and families.
A sincere thank you to all our recognition honorees this month. It's our pleasure to honor you for your commitment to our community. Now we will turn to our board proclamations. The board publicly recognizes special events and significant issues by issuing proclamations. In the month of November, we are commemorating Family and Social Partnerships in Education Month, which is November. Also, National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week, November 18 through 26. National School Psychology Week, November 11 through 15. National Education Support Professional Day, November 20. And I just want to point out that yesterday I had the opportunity with Mr. Gatlin to go work in the kitchen at Dunstan Middle School. So definitely appreciate the work of our support professionals. And then also National Substitute Educators Day, November 22nd. We encourage you to read the Jeffco School Board's proclamations. Items 5.01 through 5.05 are presented in board docs as proposed proclamations for the month of November. Do I have a motion regarding the approval of the proclamations?
I move to approve items 5.01 through 5.05 on the action proclamations section as published in board docs.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the November proclamations as presented in board docs. Roll call, please, Ms. Zavada.
Ms. Applegate,
Yes.
Ms. Kenworthy,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Dr. Varda.
Yes.
Now we will turn to public comment. This is an opportunity for the community to share their thoughts with the board. During public comment, the board does not engage in discussion with or respond to individuals. The board will now listen to public comment on any topic for up to 1 hour. If more time is required, we'll have a second public comment at the end of the meeting. There's a 3-minute time limit per individual speaker. And if there are 4 or more people who sign up to address the board, they will have 10 minutes for the group's view to be presented. Each speaker's been given a number. The board invites you to come up in order. When the person before you completes their comments, you may step up to the podium. We listen with respect and ask those who address the board to do the same. Is there a number 1 for public comment tonight? Come on up. I think it's okay to have a posse at the podium. Yep. So please tell us your name and where you're from, and you have 3 minutes. They have 10 minutes.
Test. Can you hear me now? Okay. My name is Edie Freilings. Need my address too. It is 6336 Ingalls Court, Arvada, Colorado, 80003. And my topic is Title I funding and the effective collection of student benefits applications. Let's see. So I am a parent of Matilda, a first grader at Edgewater Elementary School, which is a Title I school. I'm here as an advocate for not only Edgewater, but all Title I schools in this district and beyond. 2 years ago, I voted in favor of funding for the Healthy School Meals for All program. I'm willing to bet that everyone in this room did as well, because schools provide the essentials to our communities. Feeding every child, no matter what their circumstance, is a no-brainer. But feeding our children should not come at the expense of Title I schools losing funding that pays for critical staff and services. And that is exactly what is about to happen if this district does not make changes now. When I voted for healthy school meals for all, I worried about what would happen to Title I funding. Absent the incentive of free and reduced lunch, would families still apply for benefits so that Title I funding would be equitably distributed? What I feared has come to fruition. Absent the clear incentive of free and reduced lunch, the collection of these applications from families in Jeffco has plummeted. Historically, Edgewater Elementary School has had a student body with upwards of 85% qualifying for benefits. According to the applications collected this year, only about 54% are eligible. Student bodies fluctuate, but not that drastically. And now Edgewater is at risk of completely losing its Title I funding. This is terrifying, frustrating, and an inexcusable situation. And we are not alone. 14 schools, or 40% of Title I schools in Jeffco, are at risk of losing their funding. I had the opportunity to meet with the principal of Edgewater, the head of federal programs, as well as the assistant director of Title I funding. I was encouraged to hear that they are aware of this issue and have mechanisms available to them to make sure that these 14 schools don't totally fall off a funding cliff. But if nothing changes between now and next year, I fear more and more students will needlessly suffer because of mixed messaging and a confusing and inconvenient application process. Now that every child receives free lunch, applying for benefits through the app School Cafe makes 0 sense. I saw my daughter's school do everything they could with the limited resources and energy they have at the beginning of the school year to get as many families as possible to fill out this form before the October 1st deadline. Collecting this information from families should not be a monumental task left up to the individual schools. I am here to ask the board to treat this with the urgency it requires. The application for student benefits for the next school year becomes available on July 1st. There is too much confusion and mixed messaging when it comes to collecting benefits applications from families. We should not have to download a separate application and learn to navigate it just to fill out this form. This information needs to be collected as a part of the yearly registration process. It needs to be straightforward and separated from the messaging of free lunch. I urge you to take steps to streamline this process so that the Title I schools in this district get the financial support that they so desperately need. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Number 2.
I'm sorry, I'm number 7, but I'm with the group. Do you want to switch us around? There's just 2 of us to speak this evening.
We didn't have a group coalesce quickly enough to sign up as a group, so she is also speaking on the same topic. Can we just switch around the numbers so 7 goes 2, or should we wait?
Keep it the order. Yeah. If you don't mind, we'll keep with the order, but we'll listen to you at number 7.
Thank you.
Okay, is there number 2? Welcome. Please tell us your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Right. Hi, my name is Chandra Shah. I'm here again, 2245 Nelson Place, and I'm here to talk about Vivian. And so now that the municipal process for disposition has ended, we would like to be informed and involved during the closing and entitlement process. So most specifically, we are most interested in ensuring that there are at least 3 acres of open space, and we understand that there are negotiations ongoing regarding the open space sale to City of Lakewood. I've been talking to Greg just outside in the hall, actually, so I got more information, which is great. He mentioned that the map of they think it's going to be the southeast area, which is what we're looking for, but that they need to do some more negotiations and understand the land a little bit better, and so there might be some tweaking. So, but we'd like to be informed of, what that map is looking like and what the space will be, just so that, we're hoping that it'll be the space that we're looking for. And we want to stay informed and involved specifically in that open space transactions. We're wondering who is the best point of contact. We're working with Greg, but there's someone else that we should be communicating with. Maybe there could be updates via email to the community, maybe some signs at the school, just so that other people in the community are aware of what's going on. We also have some questions about what happens during the 540-day entitlement period. One question is, when does this period actually start? I understand there's a 90-day inspection period. Does the 540 days start after that is done, or is the 90-day inspection period part of the 540 days? And will there be another Jeffco school board vote after the 90-day inspection period? It sounds like maybe there isn't based on my conversation with Greg, but just wondering about that. Then we're also wondering about what will happen during that period in terms of the neighborhood use of the land. Will we be able to use the space? Will there be fences put up? Will it be maintained? So we're just curious about things like that, because there's a lot of people that use the land. There's children that go there, use the playground. There's people and dogs and kids that play in the area. I saw some little kids playing baseball. It was very cute last week. So definitely we're hoping to be able to use the land during that entitlement period. Also wondering what's going to happen to the playground equipment if it's not within the open space boundaries. The hope is that it can be moved. Maybe it can fit within the open space or be moved somewhere else. It just would be a shame to see that go to waste. There are certainly children in the community that use it, and the Colorado Kids Academy is right nearby, and they use it on a periodic basis as well. We're also curious about the trees and things like picnic tables and benches that I presume will be reused or left there ideally. And wondering also what will happen in terms of sustainability for the building when it's torn down. There's relatively new HVAC equipment in there. Will that be reused? Is there some opportunities for reuse of as much of the material as possible after it's torn down? And then just so you know, the petition now has 1,155 signatures, and 68% are in the immediate zip codes 80215, 33, and 228. And we looked at the contract, and it does look like there's flexibility to have more than 3 acres, which we really appreciate. And thank you for all the work that you've done working with City of Lakewood. Just in time.
Thank you. Do we have number 3? Welcome. Please tell us your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Thanks. Sorry, I have a cold. Hello, Jeffco Board. My name is Teresa Beezer, and I'm in Lakewood, Colorado. And I'm terrified to be here. In the last 22 years, I've had 5 of my children in Jeffco schools, and I still have one at Lakewood High School. I'm familiar with Jeffco, so I'm very familiar with them, and I live less than 2 minutes from Vivian. I work with my neighbors, my ad hoc community members, City of Lakewood, and my ward members, but none of them own the property, so everybody tells me that all I can do is talk to you, and that you make all the decisions, and it's been really difficult to get timely information. So I wanted to give feedback on the disposition process as I've experienced it, and so that other families facing the same thing in the near future might learn from our experience. Your website notes that you have JLL and CRL to assist in the property disposition process. But once it gets there, it's already too late for the community. As soon as the school is closed or talking about being closed, that's when they need to engage. That's when they need to get involved to look for solutions. And my community, the majority, was caught completely unaware. The Vivian community was notified on the 11th of April that it entered into the process, and the neighbors didn't know what was happening. The City of Lakewood was unaware, and most of them wanted to convert it to be a park, but they had never heard anything. The first block of the old and the new municipal process says that Jeffco will meet with it'll meet with the city about the disposition. And we have lots of proof that that never happened. It was even discussed on the September 13th special session that you had with the school board. And it wasn't acknowledged, but we did have that our board members expressed that we were experiencing pain, loss, and frustration. In this last 8 months, CRL sent 4 emails to people that subscribed to the service about Vivian. There was one meeting in a very small room where 200 people showed up. Many were sent away and just were told, go watch it online. CRL gathered the comments, posted them on our website, and then continued to get rid of the property. At this point, it wasn't clear to anybody that it was too late. And it didn't matter that the land was gifted. The owner is Jeffco Schools. So I know it's a drain on your budget, and I know it's an anchor holding you to my community, but it's already been absorbed in another school. There were 4 people in my neighborhood put on the ad hoc committee. They signed documents they couldn't share sensitive procurement information. This effectively made those 4 individuals our representatives with no way to communicate with us. It was difficult for everyone involved and not a fair representation from our community or transparent. This is where we started to get the message that it was too late. And I just wanted to say that we needed a little bit more time, and I don't know why signs aren't put up on the properties. I don't know why that the contract was just posted minutes before the meeting tonight. We just barely got to see it while sitting in the back of the room. And I don't know, I think Chandra asked the rest of my questions about the property, so I really appreciate your time and your energy toward this. Thank you.
Thank you. And is there number 4? Thank you. Please tell us your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Emily Hoke Windis, and I am a resident in Westminster, Colorado, and I am talking about our renewal for Durrell Academy. So I'd like to thank you for coming and for letting me come and speak tonight. I spoke back in March of 2023 with a few of our students. We called us the Von Trapp crew from Durrell. We were thankful for the 2-year renewal, but it did seem like it was just yesterday that I was here advocating for our students and our staff. I'm one of our founding teachers at Durrell when we opened in 2016 at the Red Rocks Community Church across from the Arvada Center, which is also where I teach. I was excited for the opportunity to teach dance in a public school because I believe I am still one of the only dance educators in all of Jeffco public schools, something I'm still working on as I know dance and movement have such positive impacts on our health and well-being. I also teach theater and PE to our students, so I'm actively keeping them moving and engaged in their studies, as well as making sure they're upstanding citizens in our community. Over the years, I've been a part of all the changes, all the shifts we had, which has been quite a lot in the short time we've been opening a school and a church, then moving to a different neighborhood twice now, working through the pandemic and teaching online to teaching kids online and in person at the same time, seeing transitions of families moving to teachers leaving education altogether, to facing really difficult parents who I still believe do not have our best interests in heart. Even after their students have left the school 6 years ago, they continue to harass us online and even write letters to you all. It really does impact our marketing and efforts to grow our student body. So I hope that they are listening and that they hear that this is no way helpful. I'm sorry I even have to share this, but it's been quite difficult to have such unwarranted harassment by someone who's no longer a part of our community. Our goal is to ensure that our school remains safe and a positive environment for all. We welcome all students that come to Durrell and work really hard to make sure they have all the resources and positive learning environments to be successful at Durrell after they leave, when they're there and after they leave. We only transitioned into our new building 15 months ago. Let me say, moving a home is a lot, let alone an entire school. We actually were finally able to move into the building 1 week prior to school starting and welcoming kids into our building. It was quite the challenge, but we did it successfully. Even though we've been open since 2016, it does feel like we are basically starting new again in another part of town. We are so thankful for the opportunities the district has provided to our community, especially the continuous professional development for our teachers and our staff. In this last year, I personally have become more involved with the district, serving on the SPA committee, which is the Strategic Plan for the Arts Committee, and I'm currently serving as an instructional leader for our theater team and lead our district's middle school theater PLC. It's really exciting to be a part of these committees, helping teachers connect and grow in the arts, as well as finding ways to help our students grow and be successful. Our students also attend the Jeffco Theater Festival, the Jeffco Improv Festival each year, providing those kids opportunities to collaborate with other Jeffco students and professional artists taking workshops and performing. I highly recommend, if you are able to attend these events in the future, to see how talented all of our students in Jeffco are. In the last time since our charter, here are some significant achievements and milestones. Oh, I've ran out of time. I'd also just like to say, though, we are hoping that your contingent renewal will be longer so we continue to reach our goals. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Number 5. Number 5, come on up. Welcome. Please introduce yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Mia Ives, and I'm a senior at Evergreen High School, and I'm here with Drew Krajewski, who is a junior at Evergreen High School. We are here to speak about Hal Farmwald, who is our former teacher, and we would like to give a recommendation on his behalf because we really want him back. This is a letter to the board on behalf of the Evergreen High School basketball players. Hal Farmwald was our coach and teacher. On behalf of the players at Evergreen High School basketball team, I'm writing to share our disappointment about the recent decision to fire Coach Farmwald. We apologize for not being able to attend this meeting in person, and as a team, we are at practice at this time. But I wanted to ensure that our feelings about Coach Farmwald were shared. Farmwald has been more than just a coach. He has been a mentor, a guide, and a huge influence on all of our lives. It is rare to find a coach who puts in as much time and effort into his team as he did. He would spend countless late nights planning for games, working on game plans, and thinking about each player's strengths and challenges. Coach Farmwald truly cares about the team's success and puts his heart into everything that he has done to help us improve. Coach Farmwald's impact goes far beyond teaching basketball. He taught us the values of responsibility, respect, and hard work, and the lessons that will stay with us throughout our lives. While he has pushed us to play our best in the court, his main goal was to help us grow into responsible and resilient young men. He cared deeply about each of us as individuals, and he worked tirelessly to prepare us not just for games, but for life after basketball. Coach Farmwald has shaped us into better people and players. Because of this, we ask you to reconsider the decision to remove Coach Farmwald based on old and unproven allegations from years ago. His dedication and commitment to our growth deserve respect and recognition, not dismissal. On behalf of the players, we respectfully urge you to let Coach Farmwald resume his duties at Evergreen High School and allow him to continue leading and inspiring us both on and off the court. Mr. Farmwald has taught Drew and I in the ETV broadcasting class, and he has invoked a passion in me that I want to pursue this as my future career, and not having him as a teacher has darkened the classroom. We are having so much trouble functioning without him, and Jeffco has removed him for an unfair reason and given us nothing in return. We have not had another teacher to help us continue this class, and it is so unfair. And I mean, I would love to have him back, not just for us, but for the other students incoming. They deserve to have that teaching because he not only helps you inside the classroom and learn these skills, but he helps you become a better person and teaches you skills outside of school. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Number 6. Welcome. Please tell us your name, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Jim Powers. I live at 11305 West Glennon Drive in Lakewood, just a block down from Glennon Heights Elementary School, and that's what I'm here to talk about. I'm one of the ad hoc members that looked over the submittals that were provided for that particular piece of property, and I just wanted to let the board know that I am typically skeptical of governments and bureaucracies and the way these kinds of things worked, and I kind of went into this thinking that the ad hoc members who actually live in the neighborhood We're just there so we can be, the whole process can be told that it was the neighborhood was involved. But I want to say that I think that the process, other than some of the hiccups in the beginning with some of the communication, I thought the process was very fair. I thought it was, I felt that our voices as ad hoc members were listened to. I'm also an architect, so I have a little bit of understanding of development. Some of the submittals that were made for that particular property, I'm not against development, but I wanted the development, if it was going to happen in that neighborhood, to fit the neighborhood. And Glennon Heights in particular has large lots around that particular school. There are half-acre lots. So it's not your typical smaller neighborhood. So I was happy to see that both JLL and specifically Roger Sherman was a really big help here in coordinating and being a liaison between us as ad hoc members and the members of the other committee, and just making sure the information that we provided as ad hoc members got to the folks that were making submittals. So we put together just a quick plan that showed the lot sizes and the house sizes around that school, and this is after the first submittal, and that was included to go out to for the second submittal. And I think that was really important, that the folks submitting proposals for that property had that information. And we're also very happy, obviously, and all the neighbors that I've talked to and communicated with are very happy with actually the school being a school and staying that way in the neighborhood, and the fields staying the way they are. And I know that that's going to all be voted on this evening, and we hope that vote goes for approval. And I just wanted to let you guys know that I thought the process was well done. Also, Roger Sherman at the end, when the process was over, he sat down with us and kind of had a debriefing of what we thought went right and what we thought went wrong, and that was really helpful too. And I believe that he'll be sharing that information, or maybe he already has, to improve the process in the future for other properties that end up going for sale. So I just wanted to extend my appreciation. Thank you very much. You guys have a great night.
Thank you. Now, do we have number 7?
Good evening again. My name is Angela Cryan. I live at 2227 Eaton Street in Edgewater, Colorado, and I'm here this evening to once again reiterate our need for Title I funding and to figure out a solution. Both of my children attend Edgewater Elementary. I have Jack, a 5th grader, and Sarah, a 3rd grader. We have benefited more than you know in a wonderful school. We are so concerned, and the families that are here tonight with me are so concerned about losing the funding that is critical even for 1 year. 189,000, 150,000, 50,000, 5,000, whatever that amount is, it is too much to lose for our students. I don't know if you know the diversity of Jeffco, and I don't know if you know the diversity of Edgewater. We are a bilingual program. And I am one of the lucky parents to be here tonight, but I am an English-only parent. I do not speak Spanish, at least not well enough for my children to say that I do. My children speak it better than I do. So I want you to know what this school has done for us. There are 297 students at Edgewater. We exceeded our expected enrollment by 30+ students this year. We have stretched every penny. Our school accountability committee and leadership team has found out that we didn't even have enough money to do teacher recognition this week that the school district recommended. Our families stepped up and our community stepped up. For years, we've had this great community, and we have felt sidestepped by the school district. We've been promised 4 new classrooms and a playground for 6+ years. We are finally been told that we might get a playground, or at least equipment that's safe, this year at spring break after 3 years of pushing for it. We are short on classrooms. Funding for teachers, though, is our most important concern. I know that it may not seem like much, but being able to stand in front of you this evening and say, simplification of a process and form is all that it takes to get our funding, and anything you can do to help us support that, we are happy to support as well. I want to leave you with one thing. This community has taught me how to text in English and in Spanish, and my children know how to respond in both English and Spanish when they're spoken to in that language first. And they've learned the diversity and community and the strive that Jeffco has to make our world and global community, as it says in your mission. Anything our families can do to help, we would appreciate. This is a small number of the 297 families that are here tonight on behalf of all Title I funds. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Ms. Cryan, I thank you. I just want to thank you for your comments. I want to thank you for your passion. And I'm going to ask Ms. Pena, who is our Chief of Family and Community Partnerships, to step out with you and your group. We have some good news for you. The school's qualified for Title I this week, so the funding is there. In addition, I received an update from Mr. Gatlin, our Chief Operating Officer, this week regarding the playground. So if you're interested in an update around that work as well, Mr. Gatlin would be happy to step out with Ms. Pena and give you guys some answers this evening.
Thank you. Do we have a number 8? Welcome. Please tell us your name, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Jerry Onan. I live in Lakewood, very close to Glennon Heights Elementary School, and that's what I'm here to speak about tonight. And I speak in support of Jacob Academy. We looked very carefully at all of the proposals that came in from the beginning to the end. Our committee, I believe, was a stellar group of hardworking people. And as it turns out, in my view, Jacob Academy was the only one of the final entities who addressed all of the evaluation criteria, and they did it very well. The other 2 remaining offers did not address all the criteria. Some of them made statements that were inaccurate, misinformed some of the statements through their process, and some of them may have been even to the point of being false statements as we checked through some of what they did. So I could not have supported any one of the other 2 entities. But Jacobs did a very, very good job. And we started off this having some concerns about the process, but the process, I think, has worked quite well through the course of what we did. And we're grateful to all of those who were involved in that process. I know that in the study session, there were some concerns expressed about maybe some competition between Jeffco and Jacob Academy. I trust that those concerns have faded away at this point. But if they haven't, I would say from my view, it's probably too late in the game to be changing the evaluation criteria to throw in some additional elements to be considered. So we live and die by that evaluation criteria when we review these proposals, and we did that as a committee. We looked at that very, very carefully. The process certainly had some flaws. I will acknowledge that, and I won't address those flaws at this point, but I think maybe even through divine intervention, we skipped through some of the problems that were there, and I think there's a very, very good resolution on the table for you all to consider this evening. When we started the process, I had a very low expectation and a very low regard for Jeffco schools. I want to tell you that that has changed. I told the HOA committee, who voted unanimously in favor of Jacob, that I didn't think I would ever think this, let alone say it out loud, but I have great respect for Jeffco now and what they have done. A large part of that is because of Jeff Gatlin. This individual is a stellar person, great to work with. His integrity and the willingness to express his concerns over what our concerns were should not be overlooked. I consider him a friend and would be glad to work with him anytime in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a number 9? Yep. Welcome. Please tell us your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Sarah McNew from the Glendon Heights community. I don't want to share my address. Is that okay? Feels weird. Sorry. I'm going to read just because that's where I'm in life right now. Good evening, board members. This decision regarding the Glendon Heights property is incredible. I'm grateful to share my thoughts on what this decision means for all of us. The vote for Jacobs Academy to purchase the Glendon Heights property is more than just a practical choice. It's an investment in our families and our future and our community. This space will be a lifeline for families in need of supportive care for their children during the early years and beyond. For some of us, the need for after-school childcare programs is critical. My students attend Divinity Elementary, and for instance, our after-school programs were filled the same day that they were open. This has been true for over 2 years now, and so I think there is a great need for this in Jacobs Academy. I've even had to adjust my own work hours to ensure that I'm able to pick up or take my children to school. I believe that Jacobs Academy can make a real difference in helping families find the stability they need and serve as a trusted resource for our community. Growing up, I attended Glendon Heights with my family here, and it's a trusted resource in our community that we hated to lose. But we're so elated to maybe have the halls once again filled with laughter and learning. It feels like we're breathing new life into this space that's been closed for 2 years, and to see it repurposed as a learning space is just incredible to our community, so thank you. Being part of this ad hoc committee has also been a unique experience that has given me a true stake in our community. I want to thank Jeff again. You've just been incredible through this process. He's really a champion for the effort and supporting us through questions and concerns, as well as my wonderful ad hoc team and my humans. It's been a learning journey for all of us. I'm sure you feel that way as well. But I'm grateful to be a part of this process. And now we know that all properties couldn't be repurposed. I'm glad to see the district is responding to community feedback. We feel that and we appreciate that so much. I know the Vivian community over here is seeing a little bit of repurpose on its land, and so I appreciate you listening and learning from our community. We really, I think, needed that after those closures, so thank you for doing that. Looking forward, I hope to continue to prioritize those spaces that serve our community, like the parks and the open spaces. We can always build, but we can't create new land. So preserving these spaces here in Lakewood makes our community a truly special place to live. This experience has shown me what it means to have a voice and decision that shapes our neighborhoods. And I just want to thank you for listening to us and taking the time. This decision is going to have a lasting impact on many of our families and our communities. So thank you so much for you and all of the work and listening that you've done. I've just really appreciated it. And we're really excited to have Jacobs Academy. So please vote it in. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a number 9? I think we are finished with our public comment. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for coming here. Okay, now as a reminder to the board and the listening public, on November 6, 2024, the board held a study session that included the following topics: an update from the Jeffco Administrator Association, property disposition, dialogue with our Financial Advisory Committee, the superintendent's recommendations on the district charter renewal applications, and finally, monitoring report EL08, the proposed school year calendars for the next 3-year cycle. I encourage you all to watch the recording of this session to learn more about these topics. You can also visit our board page on the Jeffco Public Schools website. There you'll find a host of information and links to both the board docs and our live stream platforms. So we'll now move to our first agenda item of the evening. For our first topic of study, the Board of Education is excited to hear an update from Jeffco Schools Foundation leadership on the strategic initiatives of the foundation in partnership with the district. As an independent nonprofit partner, Jeffco Schools Foundation has a proud and long history of raising resources to provide academic, programmatic, and enrichment support to Jeffco students, educators, schools, and families. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank First Vice President Reed, who represents our board on the Foundation Board of Directors. Before I turn this over to Ms. Jensen, Superintendent Dorland, is there anything you would like to add?
I'm going to give Ms. Jensen a minute, possibly. There she is. Come on up. Hello, Ms. Jensen. It's great to see you this evening. I just want to thank Ms. Jensen, her staff, and our entire community who participate with Jeffco Schools Foundation for their support from everything, from our amazing annual art show to individual classroom grants that support our teachers in special projects that they want to do with their students and everything in between. And thank you to Ms. Reed for serving on the board. And I will hand it over to Courtney. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me tonight. Thank you. As many of you know, last year was very much a rebuilding year for us, and we spent a lot of time solidifying new programs. Our three pillars for programs are strengthening our community, investing in our educators, and stimulating growth. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of what we spent funds on last school year, and then what we've accomplished thus far in the first quarter of this school year. Our strengthening our community so far has really been around providing vital resources and supports to our highest need schools. We have, as Superintendent Dorland mentioned, investing in our educators through educator grants. We started that last spring, and we have that open again right now, actually. And then stimulating growth, right now our main focus has been around providing funding to the arts and career exploration opportunities for high school students. Sorry. That's okay. Last year, this is just a breakdown of kind of where our funding went. So 55% of the funds went between a lot to the arts and to career hubs in high schools, 30% to strengthen our community. A lot of that looked like some basic need items that schools needed. A lot of snacks. We had lots of requests for snacks. And then 15% around investing in educators. That looked like educator grants, teacher appreciation, funding the first Thrives Awards night with the district. I'm not going to read through all of it, but a lot of the things we did last year was to support district programs around. We provided funding for Summit Jeffco last year. We supported funding for the Alliance Committee meetings to ensure that folks had meals, since those were in the evenings. We were able to sponsor an author event that was in partnership with the Jeffco Public Library and provide 475 books to every single library in the district. And then that was also during an author event, thank you, where Jacqueline Woodson got to come and speak to students at Jefferson Junior Senior. It was a really fun event. Under the umbrella of the Jeffco Schools Foundation is our Serving Kids program, which is a clothing bank for Jeffco students. They do incredible work and are all volunteer run. And they have seen a significant need last year increase, and then again this year have already had an increase in need, and a lot of that is also along with the cost of items going up. They feel that they are quickly going through their items on their shelves. We were able to provide 15 Title I schools with snacks for low-income students. We funded the Jeffco Reads Grocery Program, ensuring every student had access to weekly groceries. And we provided internet for 64 families in need. This was a program that started during COVID, and these were kind of the remaining folks that were on that program. Last year, we provided 39 educator grants across 28 schools. As I mentioned, we did this for the first time in the spring, and we kind of learned a lot of things and learned some hiccups. And so we changed the timeline to be now so that we can get the funding out this school year and teachers can use it this school year. We funded 39 educators last year, and I think we had like 46 applicants. And this year, the application closes tomorrow, and we already have 91 applications with nearly asking for about $77,000. So we're excited that people are becoming more aware of the opportunity and having ideas to share that they would like to receive funding for. And then finally, our Stimulate Growth program. Last year, we supplemented funding for the Learning Ally program, which encourages a love for reading and works to improve each student's overall literacy. As I mentioned, we boosted funding to the Jeffco Visual and Performing Arts departments for the art shows, theater festivals, music festivals, educator trainings, and more. We provided 5 high school career hubs with supplies to incentivize students and career engagement in the hub. And we fully funded the Costume Connection, which provides free costumes to all Jeffco schools for theater productions, special projects, and more. This year, in this first quarter, we have been able to apply for additional funding for new career hubs in high schools. So we're happy to provide funding to Arvada West and Bear Creek as they start to build out their career hubs in their schools. And we are also able to provide $61,000 to the Visual and Performing Arts departments. A lot of that has already been awarded to allow for students to participate in festivals, the theater festival, marching band festival, free of cost, where they would traditionally have to pay fees to attend. Also provide transportation to festivals and a lot of professional learning for educators that specialize in the visual and performing arts. And it's been really wonderful that we've received lovely feedback from the trainings that educators have been able to go to. And as some of you may know, December 10th is Colorado Gives Day, and November 1st was the first day of giving. You can give now until December 10th. So I wanted to share a little video. If this year we are fundraising to invest in our educators, so our hope is that everyone who applies for funding and meets the criteria for the educator grants, we can get that out to them. Oh. If you just click on the box, maybe not. Oh, bummer. Maybe it won't work. Sorry. Oh, it's probably because it's in PDF format. That's okay. Sorry about that. You can watch it. I'll send it out to you. But what we did, we were able just to go out to a bunch of schools that we were awarded funding to last year and see, what they were able to do with the small amount of money. As you all know, teachers are very thrifty and able to make money go a long way. It was really great to get out into the schools and see the difference. One of the things I think that's hard is that we're not with the students. We don't see necessarily the people that we are fundraising for. So this was a great way for my staff to be able to see that. And we made a few videos that we'll be sharing throughout the next month to share with the community as well. And one thing I just wanted to mention as a positive note, as many of you know, the foundation very much was in a rebuilding year last year. And I have my own board meeting tomorrow, so I pulled some numbers. And in Q1 of this fiscal year, our total revenue is up 285% compared to last year at this time. So I'm very proud of that. And our net revenue is at 84% positive change compared to Q1 of fiscal year 24. So I feel that the foundation is on the up and up, and we're doing some good work. And I appreciate all of your support and just getting to know you all. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jensen. And right back at you. We appreciate you very much as well. Board members, are any questions or comments for Ms. Jensen?
Just thank you. Thanks for being here tonight. And it's great to hear, as you put it, the up and up. I'm really grateful, and I'm thinking about ways that we can help lift up your organization. So I'd love to have a conversation with you offline.
Yeah, I would love that.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
And I just want to reinforce that if you're looking for a place to give charitable donations, this is our opportunity to do that. You've got the QR code, and it would be really great to kick in a little cash here and help keep that upward trajectory.
I'd just like to say that I was late to knowing about the Jefferson Foundation. And then I got to work with you and the superintendent with the art work that we got to purchase some beautiful art, as you can see behind us. And I didn't know about all the other things you were doing. So thank you for this presentation. Certain things that just jumped out on me, the career hubs, those schools that I have that have career hubs in it, I just think they're doing wonderful jobs. So thanks for letting us know what more you're doing out there.
Yeah.
Thanks. All righty. I think we are ready now for the next presentation. The board will receive an informational update on the district's preliminary and unaudited student enrollment count for the current school year and the estimated fiscal impacts of this enrollment. As a reminder to the board and our listening public, each year the district conducts a student pupil count in early October as required by the Colorado Department of Education. October count enrollment data is a key variable that drives changes to the district's forecasted revenue for FY25. Before I turn this over to Ms. Copeland to introduce the topic, Superintendent Dorland, is there anything you'd like to share?
Thank you, President Parker. I'd like to thank our presenters this evening for all the hard work that went into the presentation. And I want to thank the board, too, for this annual update to you, in addition to the more regular updates that you've asked to receive regarding enrollment. We all know that enrollment impacts not only our revenue, but also the programming that we're able to provide our students. And so I'm looking forward to you all studying this evening. Thank you. Am I handing it to Ms. Copeland? Great.
Thanks. Good evening, board members. Great to see you. We're going to quickly preview the topics for this evening. It's not quite today anymore. But before I get started, I do want to say the thing that is so weird about this presentation every year is that we're talking about students and then we start talking about them as if they're dollars. And that's not true at all. It is a financial reality that our enrollment count matters, but I do want to say that we absolutely think of our students as little humans that are learning, and please forgive us for the presentation. So first we're going to talk about our historic and current district membership. Then we've got some specific analysis around ROFs. And then we have some withdrawal information, and then we have an analysis of revenue and expense impact. We are going to be handing off a little bit. I'm supposed to have two of my team members here. I'm sure they were following the 7 p.m. suggested start time for this topic, but that's okay. I can sub for them. But since we are handing off, feel free to interject with questions at any time. That way, for whichever section we're in, you can get your questions answered. And with that, all right. Hey. All right. While they get settled, I'm gonna keep going and see how bad I mess it up. Okay. So this is showing a 5-year trend of Jeffco's student membership. Color coded. The purple is District K-12. The green is District Pre-K, and the blue is Charter Pre-K to 12. As you can see, there's a little bit of a trend there, but we are pretty excited that some of the year-over-year declines are slowing, which is something that we had forecasted, and now we're seeing that, and that is reassuring to us. Total district membership of 64,083, again, that's a K-12 number, has decreased about 8% since 2021. That was one of those years where I hate saying because it's a mouthful, et cetera. So you can see the rest of the data up there. And Brian, are you ready to jump in? Shawneen, are you ready to jump in?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to give you the clicker.
Awesome. Thank you.
So this next slide is looking at the variance between our incoming kinder cohort in the same year as we have the exiting cohort of 12th grade. So as you can see, 10 years ago on the far left, the variance between these two cohorts was about 500 students, and now we're looking at our preliminary data is showing this is closer to 1,600. So it's just another way of demonstrating to you the declining enrollment and how we're seeing that trend going forward, and how that's impacting our enrollment at the Jeffco district. Another piece of information we wanted to share with you this evening is just a follow-up to a lot of data that you saw last year, which was around our ROFS school closures last year. This year we have 4 additional schools to those closures. It was Arvada K-8, Coal Creek Canyon K-8, Moore Middle School, and Bergen Meadow Elementary School. This is showing the percentage of students that we retained within the district after those schools closed. So Arvada K-8, 77% of those students were retained within the district. Primarily, they went to North Arvada Middle School and Lawrence Elementary School. Coal Creek Canyon, 77%, and then they primarily stayed there, and as it turned into Jefferson Academy. And when we say 77%, we lost 18 students. So since that's such a small school, the percentage could be a little bit deceptive on that data point. Moore Middle School, 88%. Primarily, those students went to Pomona Junior Senior High, and then 94% at Bergen, where they converted over into their new building. The orange line that's going across on that graph is the average from what we saw in RAFS 1 from last year. So we're just comparing it to last year, and it's a pretty similar trend. And now I'll turn it over to Jeremy.
Thank you. In preparing the campus withdrawal trend data, we identified there was a change in how campus collected that data. The table below restates the 22-23 data in a new methodology that accounts for that change that is then used on the following trend slides. So in looking at the district-managed schools of withdrawal, campus withdrawal data by reason, the top withdrawal reason, my apologies, the top withdrawal reason continues to be transferred to another Colorado district with a year-over-year decrease of 21 students, followed by the second highest is transferred to another state with a year-over-year decrease of 97 students. Yeah, I got it. We do want to note that there was an increase in the dropout campus withdrawal counts. When looking at campus withdrawal data over a 12-month period, that does not take into account whether any student returns to the district and re-enrolls. Student engagement and our team work with schools to identify disengaged students with a dropout status in an effort to re-engage the student. Schools are encouraged, if they are unsure whether a student is transferred or if they have not received a confirmation of enrollment, to code the student as a dropped out to prompt the student engagement processes for re-engagement. In digging into the detailed campus withdrawal data, we noted that the top receiving district is Denver Public Schools, with the top receiving school, Ostravo Online Academy High School, and the top withdrawal reason for all overall withdrawal codes for moved. When we compare this withdrawal data, campus withdrawal data, to CDE's choice enrollment in and out data, the 23-24 school year is the first year in which there's a net loss of students from the students who have choiced into Jeffco and out of Jeffco. This net loss is due to a significant decline in the number of students who have choiced into Jeffco in those trend years. As we dig into the detailed data, CDE data for Jeffco residents who are choiced out of district, note the out of district enrollments are a mix of unique programs as well as proximity of neighboring and boundary schools. In reviewing our home-based education students registered with Jeffco by grade levels, there are 1,469 home-based education students registered for the 24-25 school year, which is a year-over-year decrease of 3 students, with the largest year-over-year increase in high school. We want to note that this includes students enrolled in part-time home-based enrichment programs, and recognize that not every home-based education student who attends an enrichment program is registered with Jeffco. And with that, I want to turn over to Brian.
Awesome. Okay, before we go into revenue and expense impact, do we have any questions that we can answer for you here?
Yeah, I think it is good for us to have our questions on that part of the presentation before we go into the budget. Are there any questions from the board? Dr. Varda?
I'm sorry, thank you for this. I'm sorry if I missed it. How do we get the data on withdrawal reasons?
Withdrawal reasons are from, so when a student withdraws, the registrar at the school identifies, based upon the information they received, a withdrawal code, and then identifies comments of the information of where they're going. So that's the information we pulled from and then created trend over trend data over 2 years.
So someone
from
knows
campus.
where they're going?
The best information they have at the time. It's a process.
know?
Typically, the parent will inform the student, and they'll capture that information. And then that information has a separate process for state reporting, where there's a state comparison where we report a student going out of district, and another district may or may not report that student.
I'm just interested in our data. Would we assume we're missing a lot of data then? Just kids we don't know why they left?
Colorado is unique in the sense that we do not have a state data system that plugs into districts to get on-demand data. It's a very delayed process between the data we capture and we report. We're currently in the process of reporting the 23-24 school year for end of year, which doesn't finish up for the next 2 weeks.
I think I have a different question
Yeah.
than what you're answering. I'm thinking of the method with how we get the data. So since it's difficult, like if a family withdraws and they don't tell the school where they're going, we don't capture that.
We don't capture that, correct.
So
and
do we know how much we're missing?
That, in that case, we work with student engagement. We ask schools to identify that student as a dropout or unknown.
Oh, I see.
And then they work in trying to follow up to engage that student and get that information.
That's helpful.
And Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, there's another way that we sometimes find where a student has gone when their new school requests their cumulative file. And so some of these withdrawals where we know where they're going, state or otherwise, it's because a school in Texas has asked for the cumulative file. So that's another source of it.
We typically get those requests more in secondary than we do in elementary.
I imagine if you really wanted to go into it, you could validate whether what we recorded was what they reported. But my only other question, I visit all my charter schools up in the north. And one thing I've learned is how many of them have homeschool programs. And I can think of 3 that have told me they have at least 800 homeschool students, if not more, which far exceeds these reports. And I do see the last bullet that says not every homeschool registers, student registers.
Correct.
But I went to the Jefferson Academy homeschool campus last year, where I think, and I'm doubting myself now, but I think they have over 1,200 students. I think I've always wondered how we could get better data. So for example, in the area that I live, where we close the most schools and where we have still a bunch of small schools and the most amount of charters, so this combination is just the way it is up there, then we have a lot of students in homeschool programs, but we don't really have an accurate record, unless they're not telling me accurate numbers. But we were at Woodrow Wilson last week, where I think he said they have over 800 just from that one school. So yeah.
I can go ahead and get the total homeschool population and get that information to you as an update.
If not the total homeschool?
These are the ones registered and having, what do I want to say? Yeah, correct. Yeah. So go back to my slide, I'm sorry. So it includes the students who are enrolled in part-time home-based enrichments, and then students who are registered with us, you do have situations where students do get into enrichments after the start of school when we pull the data. So this is a point in time data. So I can get a fuller set of data if you would prefer.
Yeah, I guess I'm just pointing out there seems to be something off because, like, I was not there this year at Jefferson Academy last year. And I think the thing that I find really interesting, I just would love to know, and I'm so curious why, our kids are choosing all the different schools that they do. And I think also maybe we just need to learn more about homeschool programs, because what I understood was that when they register, we have all these charters in the room. They can probably tell me the answer to this, but when they register with the charter, even for part-time, the charter receives district funding for that student.
Correct.
And I think it's half
Part-time,
the funding.
they have to meet 90 plus hours.
Yeah. So I'm struck that we don't have the numbers when we are distributing funding for those students in those schools. So
we do, and I can get more information, break that out. We have October count funding numbers. We have registration numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you for the information. I guess I understand, just looking at probably the same slide, the reasons for withdrawal, understand moved and then move to online school. What does transfer include?
Transfer would be move. So, when you talk about that was the answer that was provided when the parents said they were leaving Jeffco. So they said they were being transferred in case. So this comes from the comments. And so unfortunately, we are limited to how it's entered based upon the comments provided.
So we don't really have the ability to drill into it and say, why are you choosing online versus, okay.
Correct.
I have a question on slide 9, where you're talking about the difference in methodology. It's like drastic difference. So can you explain the?
So no-show was a suppression of withdrawal data. And so the previous data set, if the school no-showed it, we didn't have access to that data on the way we initially pulled it. So in comparing that data, we stopped schools from using the no-show because it wasn't capturing all the data. We wanted better data quality for where a student was going. And when they used the no-show, it was suppressing that. So we changed that practice, and then we were able from the back end to get the fuller data set, which we're providing you.
Thank you. This slide here makes it look like there were, almost twice as many in the OOD category. So what you're saying, if I understand it, that in the old methodology, there would have been a no-show column.
Correct. There was a button to click a no-show. So a student may not have returned, and then we weren't able to pull on the front end why they left or where. And so we removed that because it was suppressing access to that data on the front end. So in doing so, then we were able to collect that on the back end and then get the comparison trend data.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I'll just jump into and just say this is part of a lot of work, as you guys know, we've been doing around becoming a data culture and sort of tightening up how we're asking people to, what goes in or what comes out is as good as what goes in terms of the data. So we have done a lot of work around better expectation setting around what we want our schools to do for coding in IC, and been more clear, I think, in those expectations over the last year. And so that's part of why some of this data is looking different, which is that footnote at the bottom of that slide. So, but I appreciate you highlighting that, Mary, and noticing it. Thank you.
And I just wanted to add the other piece of data that I feel like is missing in this current presentation is information about students newly enrolled in Jeffco, right? So most of these are not net numbers. They're just showing anyone who at some point departed, and by the way, they may have come back. The other side of the coin is there are people arriving, right? And so maybe in a future iteration, we'll try to show both, because I think that might be really helpful as well as we're trying to kind of understand what's happening. There is some movement, and people are coming here too, right? So that we'll try and capture that in the future.
Okay, so I think we're ready to go on. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to cover the revenue and expense impacts based on the preliminary October counts. The key takeaway from the preliminary enrollment is there were some minor adjustments to the district revenue and expenses that will result in no change to the budgeted use of fund balance. Net revenue and net expenses will increase $1.3 million. This is due to increased pupil count, decrease to the at-risk count, and some small increases to other non-SPB factors. The preliminary membership count for the district is up around 200 students from the FY25 amended budget projections, resulting in a funded pupil count increase of around 100 students. This produces an increase in revenue of $1.3 million. I'd also like to point out here that the Ascent program did grow by 150 students from last year. That was a great growth number. The preliminary October count enrollment produced a student-based budgeting true-up at schools of a net positive of $3 million. This included, included in the net $3 million is a 3.5 use of carry forward to reduce the negative budget true-ups. My budget team did anticipate the October true-up amount in the amended budget, and some of the anticipation of having higher enrollment in some schools and some of the schools utilizing this carry forward. This resulted in no change to the expense budget for the district. There was a decrease in identified at-risk student population, which resulted in a decrease of $4 million from the FY25 amended budget. The COVID expansion for Medicaid and SNAP identification ended last spring, resulted in a decrease in direct cert counts of around 6,000 students. Some of this decline was offset by increased form submissions. I'd like to mention here that the district leadership did decide to hold district schools harmless from at-risk count true-ups for 1 year this year to provide them time to plan for the updated at-risk budget for the FY25-26 school year. Okay, the UPK enrollment was budgeted at a total utilization rate of capacity of around 74%. The preliminary enrollment is coming in around 81% of total capacity, which is an increase, which is a great number to have. This increased the revenue of around $2.5 million and also a relative increase of $1 million in expenses. Okay, so this will be have now answer questions for revenue and expense.
So we just heard from Edgewater that they believe that their Title I, well, I'm thinking of like the individual students. We keep calling them free and reduced lunch, and that's really kind of a misnomer at this point. But that count is inaccurately low. And then I look at this and it looks like we're dropping as a district in the number of students who are being identified as at risk. That submission of forms is up. So I'm just wondering what's going on there, because I have to agree that I'm having a hard time believing that Edgewater went from 80% to 54% overnight. And can you help me understand better what's going on there?
Sure. So if you look at FY21-22 on this chart, that was a year where there was not the same level of grandfathering, and that's not the right word. I wish I had a better word, but where you count a student as eligible for assistance simply because they were eligible the prior year. And so at that moment in time, we weren't using direct certification. This was all just from forms. But you can see that there was, even with, I think at that point it was like a 1 year kind of allowed to remain eligible regardless of form submission. But we were going down. And if you draw sort of a line from that 20,000 students to the 19,563, That's actually about what we thought was going to happen over time. The spikes are because in 22-23, I think that was our first year with direct cert, wasn't it?
Direct cert, the increase in Medicaid was 23-24.
Right.
So the Medicaid was in 22.
But I think the first year we got to use direct cert was in 22-23, right? Yeah. And as soon as we did that, our count went up. And the reason is that the motivation to apply for public assistance is pretty high. And those programs were qualifying more folks. It was part of like the equivalent of ESSER, the additional pandemic relief funds to states help support keeping folks on Medicaid regardless of kind of their status. So while I understand that number feels dramatic, it's actually because within that 80%, quite a few of those folks actually were no longer eligible for public assistance. And they had been coming through to us on those direct cert numbers that carried quite a few years worth of eligible folks. And again, when I look at the overall numbers for the district, that was the trend I expected to see based on what we were seeing in FY21 and FY22. So I don't actually think it's wrong.
So this is basically reflecting a decrease in the number of people who are eligible for benefits. Okay. Because they had initially sort of been given grace into subsequent years, and that is drawing to a conclusion. Okay, thank you.
To follow up on that, because Edgewater is not the only school worried about this. I've heard quite a bit from several others this week. Where do we get these numbers?
Multiple sources. So the county, I'm going to put that in a little bit in air quotes. There's a number of different public assistance providers that are able to then submit data into a database that then flows to us effectively sort of through CDE. And that way we're able to match it to the student. Within the district, our food and nutrition services team has always been the receiver of that data feed, so to speak. That was a pun, I'm sorry. And again, what I can see is that as soon as we introduced direct cert as a way to identify students for food assistance within the school district, all of our counts went up, and then they stayed higher than they should have because of this rolling eligibility. But we get it from trusted sources, and that's not the only qualifying factor. Students may be in the foster care system, and there's other factors that enable them to qualify as at risk in Colorado.
So is it fair to say, I guess two questions here. One, that these numbers may not be an exact reflection of the actual forms submitted for free and reduced lunch? That's the first one.
That's a fair thing to say. I guess I'm...
you're asking with the second question, which is wise. So if we are looking at title funding, does title funding come from these numbers, or do they come from the free and reduced lunch numbers?
So these numbers are the same numbers that Food and Nutrition Services is using.
Yes.
And so I'm also trying to not use FRL. So just a quick note, I do want to remind folks, our title funding is important, and obviously we don't want to lose that. But the money that we give schools for at-risk students through SVB is more than twice any of their per-student allocations for title. And every single school in the district who serves a student who's eligible for assistance receives that at-risk allocation. So on a monetary basis, that at-risk funding is much more significant than title funding. And again, the reality of the counts district-wide are going down, and that's going to impact over time our Title I district-wide in terms of, what does that mean for schools? We can always make a decision around that at-risk factor. We increased it as part of the SBB work that we did because we wanted to make sure it was additive. And we were trying to get closer to sort of a national norm or benchmark around approximately 20%, which we could find. And we said, okay, 20% of regular base funding is a number to target. And we tried to get closer to that as well.
I'll add one thing. Thank you. I think that's helpful. Hopefully the board feels that way too, and we can keep talking about it. Every year we do take a strategic look at our title funding. So, and we make decisions through the budget cycle for the upcoming year about where to sort of draw certain lines. What's going to qualify for title funding in terms of demographics, number of at-risk students served, that kind of thing. And it can change from year to year. So I do think the other opportunity we have is to understand this, acknowledge that our at-risk revenue is decreasing, and then we go back, look at our schools, look at our demographics, how they're changing over the course of the year, look at the October count information from our students, the demographic enrollment data, and we make different decisions. So every year schools are sort of wondering, this is not necessarily a new thing. Schools do sometimes who hover on that, cusp of, well, you have to be this percent of at risk to receive title funding. If you're hovering on the edge of that number, you're always sort of nervous. Am I going to be in or out the next year? One of the things that I think we have talked about, and I don't know exactly where we are right now, but I'll get an update, is the opportunity to sort of tier schools and phase them in and out of that. It's similar to the averaging of enrollment that the state does, so that we're not yo-yoing year to year on big enrollment fluctuations. There are strategies you can use where you say, look, you are looking like you are not going to be title, and you have a 2-year or a 3-year sort of phase out to be able to make adjustments to your new revenue or your new SBB over time. Those are all conversations that, given this data that we're looking at, which is fresh and new to all of us, it will cause us to have some of those conversations about how we're allocating title funds to schools, how we're using it centrally. Honestly, we need to take a look at that and think about what schools need versus what we need to do centrally to be able to administer the programs. All of those things will be conversations we have during our budget processes, if that's helpful. We don't have all the answers right now, and we won't be able to know them until we kind of get into the budget process and have more time with the October count data.
No, thank you. That's helpful, and I appreciate the explanation.
I also want to say that I've heard from other schools similar to what the Edgewater parents told us. Everett Middle School is one of the ones that came to mind, where people are saying there can't be that much a drastic change in demographics. So, Superintendent Dorland, you did say that to the Edgewater contingent, that just today some decision was made about that school. Was it made about multiple schools?
My understanding was that our food nutrition services team was doing some validation work alongside probably our finance and Title I administration team, and that just this week some schools were notified that they sort of were going to continue to receive the funding. I don't know much about the timing, but I'm grateful that Ms. Pena was able to spend some time with the families just to calm their nerves, and I'll be following up tomorrow with the team to just try to figure out, like, what message are we sending to our schools to make sure that they understand what's happening and support our principals with a better understanding of what's happening so they can be sense makers for their families.
Thanks. And also, are there other students that we might miss when we're talking about at-risk? And I know last year there was more concern in the Denver area of a lot of migrant families coming in, and I don't think that's happening as much now. But is there any, do any of our newcomer kids fall through the cracks because for multiple reasons their parents don't know much about our schools?
Do you want to address that?
Yep, okay. That's an excellent question, and one that was raised just now by our Edgewater community as well. And really grateful to the board for their investment in our newcomer supports. We do have 3 family ambassadors that are our direct line of contact and support for all of our newcomer families in Jeffco. And so just shared that we have close to 900 newcomer families that we're currently serving in Jeffco, and I have a spreadsheet of every single one of them in which our newcomer family ambassadors have made direct points of contact to every single one of our newcomer families and are walking them through really all of the educational and enrollment processes that they need, which would include the school benefits application and letting them know what rights and access that they have to the services that we provide, not only at the district level, but also at the county and the city level as well. And so that team is doing a tremendous job providing that information and those wraparound supports directly to our families and in partnership with our schools and with our schools that have family engagement liaisons in partnership with our family engagement liaisons as well.
Thank you. Any other questions on this section?
This conversation is making me curious about something that I know happened at Rose Stein. I know that their school accountability committee went all in on really working with that community to make sure that their paperwork, their forms were turned in. And I'm curious whether or not that is something we would want to see replicated across the county, or if we should put our energy elsewhere, or what is your opinion? That's what I'm asking.
I love giving opinions. So, again, one interesting factoid. In FY25, we're qualifying almost twice as many students based on their form submission. So I'll just say it again. The number of students qualifying based on their form submission is almost double what it was last year. So it's hard for me to take that fact and say that there's something wrong with form completion and submission, right? Again, I think a lot of what's happening is the primary driver to get support, as much as, there's some incentives with the school district and types of supports, but the primary driver is healthcare and food. And the numbers that probably aren't correct in this multi-year trend are FY23 and FY24, where quite a few folks were certified that weren't, right? And so when we talk about forms, I continue to think that moving to a system where so many of our students are direct certified actually improves identification. It will always be better than forms, to be honest. And so I'm glad that the state of Colorado has done that. I think statewide, it's overall, again, numbers have gone up because of that process, and I do think that's the right focus. So I guess, I would really hope that our ambassadors are talking to our families about SNAP and about Medicaid and really strongly encouraging them to apply for those important benefits, even more than our forms.
Follow-up. One of the requests that we heard just this evening was a request for streamlining the forms or making them simpler or easier. Is that an internal process, or is that something that's determined outside of the district?
I'm trying to harness my inner Beth Wallace. And there's quite a few details about what's on the form, what type of form, and it actually has to vary a little bit based on the school status and whether it's a community school or et cetera, et cetera. So in short, no.
Thank you.
One thing I think that is good, I think the streamlining of eligibility for forms, I guess, filling them out across the state. There's so many efforts right now through innovation groups and then human service groups, all trying to streamline those eligibility documents for families. So if we're going towards that, hopefully we can benefit from that streamlining, and families will benefit from it too, because that's a complaint they have, not just about our forms, but in general, they have to fill out a new thing for every single eligibility. So there's a lot of work right now trying to align those as well. So hopefully it'll all align a little bit and just end up being easier for families.
As we talk about pulling information from like SNAP and Medicaid and all of that, what happens if we've got families who are here without documentation? Are they not eligible for these and therefore not being counted? What happens with that?
So we're starting to get a little bit outside my area of expertise. Anecdotally, I believe that your immigration status does not preclude you from receiving public assistance.
Can I make a suggestion? I'm actually feeling the need for us to have some at-risk funding discussions. It seems like that might be an interest of the boards. And I actually think that would be a great thing for us to build into some of our budget conversations as we go into mid-year, February, March. And I'm also taking away that, and I'm just going to say this out loud for the team to kind of note and hear, I think we have some education to do with our budget managers and school leaders around how their students are qualifying for at-risk. And I just want to say, I love this idea of making sure that our families understand the social resources available to them in SNAP and Medicaid, and getting more of our efforts focused on qualifying families for those supports that actually provide a benefit to them in addition to free school lunches, which we have for every kid anyway. So I'm really curious about this conversation. I very much appreciate all the questions you've asked because it's gotten me thinking, and we're going to have some team conversations, but I'd be happy for us to dive into this for the board. If you want to keep going with your agenda and we can bring this back. Great, thanks.
That's good. All right, well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you. I'm wondering, board, if you'd be amenable if we adjust our agenda right now and do the consent agenda now, because we have some members in the audience who are interested in what we will do. So I think we will need a motion. Ms. Charleston, how do we get out of order?
Since you already have noticed the item for decision tonight, you don't have to worry about amending your agenda to alert the public that that's happening. So I think just exercising a moment of courtesy and making the adjustment is something that you can do as long as there's no objection.
And the moment of courtesy is what? A moment of silence?
No, I think it's exactly what you did. You proposed to your peers.
All right, good. Then we will go right now into the consent agenda. Items 8.01 and 8.22 through 8.22 are presented in board docs as a proposed consent agenda. Do I have a motion regarding the approval of the consent agenda?
I move to approve items 8.01 through 8.22 on the consent agenda as published in board docs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? Dr. Varda.
I just wanted to comment on our property disposition work. I think we've come to a place where we have learned so much. And I kind of have two asks. So the first one, I'm so sorry, I just put a cough drop in, not thinking we were going to talk right now. I think our process has we heard good things and some really challenging things. So I'm hopeful that we can do like a retro at this point on how those processes have gone, especially our community engagement work, and just take stock of what's worked well and what hasn't, and see where we might adjust. And I think we've talked about that a little bit, but I really want to focus on that because some people are really, really upset by that process. And so I think we can learn. I've always said, like, definitely have bigger rooms is one lesson we've learned, so people don't have to leave. The other thing is, in the process of these latest property dispositions, in the study session, I asked about the demand for preschool, and we learned through the response that we got that there are 359 kids in the area of Glennon Heights. Is it Glennon Heights? I'm so sorry. Yes. that are waiting on wait lists and preschools from our neighborhood schools, within our neighborhood school lists. And that's not something that I had heard about before we did all of this. I'm really glad that a preschool has been, we have a way to put a preschool in there and meet that need. So I'm pleased that we're at this point. I'm regretful, though, that Jeffco didn't notice this in time to put our own programming in that school or just address this need before a private sector entity was able to come in and do that. So in this time when we have so much enrollment decline, we need to capture every single kid that we can in our public schools. And so I just regret that we missed that somehow in the way that when we are given data and information about disposition, should we put a school in disposition, the way it's framed is the district has determined we will no longer need that property. And I just want to be able to really, really trust that we have looked at every single piece of demand in the district where our programs could bring kids into that school, and do it before we make really big, irreversible decisions about letting properties go. So I'm not saying Glennon Heights should have been one thing or another. I'm glad that we're going to be able to fill with an obvious huge need in this area for these kids on this wait list. And I'm very pleased that the community is happy with that. But I just feel like we missed something here. And so going forward, I'm just hopeful. And I'd like to ask that we just are really hyper aware of these kinds of things so that we can fill as many of these closed schools with as much Jeffco programming as possible before private entities come in. So those are just my asks and my thoughts on our process.
Thank you. Any other comments? It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please. Ms. Zavada?
Ms. Applegate?
Yes.
Ms. Kenworthy?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Dr. Varda?
Yes.
The consent agenda items are approved. Thank you all for coming. For our final presentation tonight, the board will review the current analysis of the two new builds originally considered in the 2018 Capital Improvement Program. As a reminder to the board and our listening public, Jeffco continues to conduct long-term planning analysis around school boundaries, demographics, and enrollment projections. No staff recommendation is being made, nor board decision is being requested at this time. Before I turn this over to Ms. Rosario, Superintendent Dorland, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Thank you, President Parker. This is a complicated topic, and I want to reiterate, I very much appreciate you saying no decisions are being made at this time. I want our listening public to know that we have staff has shared with our Board of Education that we need to take our time with these decisions, and we anticipate sort of the old saying of multiple bites at this apple, so that the board clearly understands all the ins and outs and possible options and implications of the decisions to either build these two new schools or do something different to support the trends in enrollment. And so there will be no decisions, obviously, this evening or next month, but we do anticipate multiple conversations about this. So stay tuned. This is round one. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Rosario.
Thank you. Maybe I don't have that close enough yet. Okay. Thank you for having me. Already articulated as our purpose for today, we're going to review the current analysis for the two new builds that were contemplated as part of the 2018 Capital Improvement Program. We'll look at forecasted enrollment trends and school utilization for both Ralston Valley and Green Mountain. And we want to do this so that the staff and the board can collaborate on a path forward. And reiterating again, we're not making a recommendation or asking the board for a decision at this time. So getting grounded, we talk about that in the fall of 2018, we had a bond issuance that was approved by our community. And from that became the 2018 CIP program, or Capital Improvement Program, which had $60 million earmarked for 2 new school builds. You can see in the map on the right, high-level picture of our district with 2 large blue dots, one in Ralston Valley in the northern part, and then Green Mountain farther south towards the central part of our district. Timeline is we're here today for the first presentation for you all to see this. We have also engaged with the Colorado Future Center, Colorado Future Center on a demographic study for Arvada. We've already undergone that, and that's almost complete. We will then have some engagement with our Arvada elected officials in hopefully December, January to review the data from CFC along with our own data for what we're seeing in that area. Additionally, you all, for our next board meeting in December, will have a meeting with a dialogue session with our CAC committee, which is our Capital Asset Advisory Committee, and they will also talk about this potential of the 2 new builds. Then in the spring, we're going to do a similar process that we're doing already in Arvada. We'll engage again with CFC for a demographic study for the Lakewood area, and then engage with our elected officials in that area, showing them our data along with this demographic study. And the decision making is still to be determined, but this is the path forward that we see today. So starting with the end, the key takeaways from this presentation are going to be that our enrollment projections demonstrate that both in Ralston Valley and Green Mountain, we are on track to be able to accommodate what we are projecting as our student enrollment for the next foreseeable future within the current footprint within both of those articulation areas. The schools at all levels display healthy rates of utilization and room to accommodate boundary students, including those that are coming from new developments. Any schools with higher utilization trends tend to have a higher choice percentage, and that gives us opportunity for adjustments to try to accommodate the boundary students first. We're looking at utilization rates being healthy from 61% up to 100%, and that gives us room for enrollment growth. And then just a reminder, back in the spring and in June, we made a decision to assign the Trailstone development to Micklejohn Elementary, Wayne Carl Middle School, and Ralston Valley High School to alleviate some concerns that we did have at that time at Ralston Valley around 3 Creeks capacity. And again, our 5-year projections demonstrate that we think we have capacity to accommodate the growth. As we did this was many months of analysis, and as we did the analysis, we came up with, there was a few other available levers that we believe we can pull besides just making a decision between do we build a school or do we not. As we observe high utilization within schools, we think there's some other things we can consider in the process. The first is to employ what we're calling effective capacity planning. So that's really looking at how can we smooth out enrollment across grades and cohorts within schools and articulation areas to create an efficient model for those schools within the articulation area. We also look at if there's special programs in any of those schools, potentially pre-K or central services that are taking up space in a building that was intended for K through 5 students, and seeing if there's opportunity to relocate to maybe help if there's an enrollment growth in one of those schools. Additionally, we can consider, it's not highly regarded, but we can consider a temporary building when we really see that it's just a short-term solution for less than 5 years to a building to accommodate maybe a bubble of enrollment that's going through the school, and then being able to remove the temp building once that bubble has pushed through. We also can look at the option of adding a permanent addition to a current building where it's projected that we're going to have sustained increased enrollment for greater than 5 years. And that's obviously a smaller investment than a new school building. We can do similarly to what we did in Ralston Valley. We can look at boundary lines. We can adjust or reassign based on where students live and attend if that helps us to maximize or minimize the impact on the current families, but help with the long-term enrollment planning. And then finally, with the building a new school option, that is really for when we do not think that the capacity in the area is sufficient for the growth. We can look at building a new school, but the options with that isn't just build a new school. We can also consider closing and or consolidating with nearby schools as an option for that lever. So just a reminder that we feel like there's a few levers we can also analyze in the process as we look at new growth in any of our areas. taking a step back, if we go back to 2016 and where we were and what we were thinking was going to happen within the district, this graph is showing what we were forecasting as our enrollment. The green bars are the enrollment projections for the Ralston Valley articulation area, and the orange is Green Mountain. And at this time, we knew that we were having the Candelas and Leyden rock developments coming on within Ralston Valley, which is driving a good chunk of those green bars growing up upwards over the course of these years. We also had Three Creeks already on the radar to be projected to open in the fall of 2017 to help accommodate with growth from those new developments. Three Creeks did open in the fall of 2017. And then for Green Mountain, we knew that there was potential for developments, but none of them were, we weren't close enough to any of those being able to really forecast any enrollment, but we were forecasting at that time that the enrollment in Green Mountain was going to be relatively flat over the next few years. Fast forward to today, this graph is updated. The bars are now the actual enrollment for both of those articulation areas. The green bar, or the green line above is matches the bars that we saw on the previous slide, so that's what we were projecting for enrollment. And then the green bars down below are what we saw as the actual enrollment. And then same for Green Mountain. The orange line is what we projected, and the orange bars is what we saw. So we can see that we did see the growth in Ralston Valley as we anticipated. It just wasn't as significant as what was anticipated. And then within Green Mountain, we've actually seen a decrease in enrollment in Green Mountain where it was projected to be relatively flat. So what's changed in this time? You all are very familiar with this. We don't have to go through it in detail. We had the pandemic, but one thing to think about that we have seen is there have been demographic changes. So the families that moved into Candelas and Leyden Rock and Solterra developments, they actually yielded fewer students into our district than originally calculated in what we had seen in previous developments within the district. So that's a change to our modeling that we can learn from now as we saw those students come into our district. The other piece is that we did have slow and uncertain pace of development. So many of these developments really did slow down or got delayed for various issues related either to the pandemic or supply chain or other issues within those areas. So those things are things that we know happen now, but we didn't know it at the time in 2016. So I will go through the analysis, but I first wanted to cover a few definitions that I think will help as we get into the analysis to make sure that we're operating from the same page. So I will talk a lot about utilization, just to understand that utilization is calculated by dividing the number of students in a building currently within the design capacity. Understanding that design capacity doesn't always account for center-based programs that are operating within the school. Sometimes there might be a center-based program that's taking up classroom space that was designed to have up to 24 students. So that's going to be a variance between design capacity and what's actually happening. In cases where we have those center-based programs and or we anticipate greater than 100% utilization, we're currently going through a process where we have a facilities team member walking the building with a school leader to really analyze this space, because we know that based on when school buildings were built and how they're being used, just looking at it from a straight math perspective doesn't always work to tell us how many students can be fit into that building. So on these cases, we're starting with those higher priority ones and making sure that we're on the same page. In the top right is utilization ranges. So these are ranges that we've typically used in our summary of findings document that's issued through the facilities department. We'll use this color coding in the analysis going forward to just highlight the differences on where schools are hitting in their utilization ranges. And then additionally, in the bottom right-hand corner of this slide is just our facilities condition index. This is just to say that the goal of 2016 CIP program was to lower the average FCI. When we started in the program, it was a little greater than 20%, and now we're less than 10%. So obviously the program has done a good job in lowering the FCI, but then as the analysis goes through, you're going to be able to see those scores for each of the schools that we're considering. Questions before I get into Ralston Valley? All right. Here is our articulation maps for the Ralston Valley area. On the left is our elementary boundaries, and on the right are our middle school boundaries. I am including boundaries for the Stanley Lake articulation area as well. We do have in Ralston Valley the interesting matriculation pattern where students that attend Meiklejohn Elementary then go up to Stanley Lake for middle school at Wayne Carl Middle School, and then they come back down into their articulation area for Ralston Valley. So that is part of why they're being included, and then just for the proximity of these schools to the areas where we're going to be focusing the analysis. The information on this grid on this slide is we have a column there for 24-25 enrollment. This is our preliminary enrollment for October counts, or leading up into October counts. It was really pulled September 25th, right prior to our October count data, so it's close but not exact. And keeping in mind that the enrollment data that's on here is our preschool through 12 enrollment. We also have capacity of the building. That is the capacity that I referenced on the previous slide with the space capacity. And then we have the column for utilization. This is using that color coding that I had mentioned to just give a visualization of where each of these schools are sitting for their utilization percentages. We also have capture rate. Capture rate is how many of the students that are boundary to that school are actually attending that school. So we can see really good capture rates in this area of the district. And then finally, the FCI score for each of the buildings. And any of these schools that have either an asterisk or a cross next to them, those are highlighting if a school has a temporary building on site or if they have a preschool program, because that does impact what's going on in the building. This slide is showing us our choice in and choice out statistics. So the first two columns are from last school year, our choice in numbers and percent of students that are choicing into each of these schools. And then our choice out numbers and percentages. And then the final two columns are a 5-year average, and most of them are consistent, but you can see that some of them are different from last year over a 5-year, and so it just gives you a comparison. If we take what we know today in Ralston Valley, and we take the first column, which is kind of in the middle as the prelim column, this is showing us that preliminary enrollment for this school year and the utilization for each of these schools. And then we're forecasting out the enrollment and utilization for each of the schools in this area. And then, like I said, Wayne Carl is included on the bottom just because we do have that matriculation pattern with the students being involved going up to Wayne Carl from Meiklejohn. So this is showing good levels of utilization across these schools, but you can see some of the changes. You can see Meiklejohn going from 65% up to 84%, and that's in anticipation of the Trailstone development starting to come into that school and being enrolled within that school. So the impact of status quo, leaving everything as it is and looking at those projections and utilizations, we can see that we have room within the buildings, within the existing buildings. If we leave it as is, there's no impact to the students and the families. We don't have to do a boundary change. We don't have to impact transportation. We will see the better enrollments in Meiklejohn and Wayne Carl due to the Trailstone development over time. And then we would need to continue to monitor the enrollment, employ effective capacity planning within the area just to keep an eye on what's happening within those schools and where they're sitting with their enrollment. So now I want to give you a scenario of if we build a new school in Ralston Valley and how this was originally contemplated in the 2018 bond. Just keep in mind that this is used to explore the impact of a new K-8 school. It does assume that when the K-8 school opens, all the students that are enrolled or that live in the boundary for that new school would start attending the new school. So it doesn't have consideration about if that's really what the pattern would be. This is really just showing to illustrate the potential impacts of a new school in the area based on what we know today. So these are your elementary school boundaries. On the left are our current elementary school boundaries, and then on the right is the elementary school boundaries. In the middle is the lime green boundary area for the new K-8. You can see it as a little red building and highlighting in the middle there. It's beautiful. And here is the middle school. On the left are the middle school boundaries, and then on the right is the Middle school boundaries, the original assumption for a school up here is a K-8, so this would take the middle school boundary away, or this would take the middle school boundary away, for Meiklejohn. It would take it away from Wayne Carl and put it in the new K-8, and so you would see that in the middle of the articulation area up there. So what does that mean for utilization within this area? The first 5 columns are what I showed you a few slides ago, which is the utilization based on our status quo current state. And on the right are 5 columns, and you can see in the middle we add the new K-8 school that becomes online in 27-28 and goes forward. You can see when we bring on the new K-8 school, then we see the decline in utilization for Meiklejohn and for Wayne Carl at the bottom of the graph, as those students are now boundary to attend the new K-8 school. Are there questions on this part? All right. So if we built a new K-8 school in Ralston Valley, if it was today, a portion of the families that live in Three Creeks, Meiklejohn, and Wayne Carl boundaries would experience a boundary change. It's approximately 215 families today. The district would need to consider if we would exempt privileges for families that are currently enrolled in any of those schools, if we really would have them attend the new school the first year that it opens, and how that works for the district to manage. We could be creating an environment in this area where schools would be competing for students, because as new students go to the new school, they're going to leave the old school, and the old school may want additional, to beef up their enrollment so that they get their additional SPB funding. Wayne Carl and Meiklejohn would need to be monitored for long-term sustainability, because we can see that the new school would be pulling students away from those 2 schools. And that's the way the analysis goes for Ralston Valley. Are there questions? You ready to, do you want to go straight into Green Mountain? Thoughts?
This question is for Tracy, I think. Do we have any information yet from the principals and staff in the area, their thoughts on the Ralston Valley potential build?
We have shared this information with our principals, and I will maybe let one of these leaders over here share with you more detail about what they've shared with us.
Yeah, so thank you for asking that, Director Kenworthy. So Shawneen did a wonderful presentation to all of our principals in the Ralston Valley and Green Mountain areas a couple of weeks ago. They asked really great questions. I would say our Ralston Valley principals, the ones that were mentioned up there around sustainability, were really concerned about what might happen to their schools. One of the principals said that new schools are old school killers, and they were concerned. We definitely got some great questions. Meiklejohn in particular had some questions and concerns about the capacity numbers we were showing for them. So our facilities team actually just finished a walk, I believe, yesterday or the day before, and we will be adjusting the capacity numbers at Meiklejohn, but it doesn't change our analysis. They have a preschool program there, and the ability, they still have space, so we don't have concerns. But I would say that they asked thoughtful questions, and I think they're still ruminating on it, but there wasn't, they weren't rejecting the idea that we brought forward, that we could handle the capacity within the schools that we already have. Shawneen, would you add to that?
No, I think that's exactly it. I think they did, they kind of nodded their heads and agreed that they felt like, with what they're seeing, that we had the capacity in that area to handle the students up there.
If they're still ruminating on it, is there a second chance for them to circle back around and give feedback or thoughts, since this sounds like this discussion happened really recently?
Yes, I think, yes, we will continue to engage them as we get further down the line with the board too, and understand what our timing might look like. For sure, we'll keep checking in with them.
And I would just say, as we do that work, it's always an option for us to have a principal or two who represents these areas be at the table so that the board can interact directly. I mean, you guys all do school visits and can talk to principals as well, but just having their voice in the room as we move toward decision-making for the board is always an option too. The Green Mountain principals were also there, so maybe we can add that into the presentation, just some thoughts about how they reacted. I think when I was in there with them, their reaction was very similar to the board's conversation. And so we can share that as well as we move forward.
That is helpful. I think for me with the Ralston Valley, I'm less familiar, and I haven't visited a lot of schools up there because it's not my director district, but I want to make sure that their voice is being considered as the experts, living in that area. And I know that I have way more access to information about Green Mountain because that is in my close to my director district. And so I appreciate you sharing that information. It's helpful. Thank you.
Great. I just want to make the comment for anyone who may be watching that this is not the first time that we have seen any of this information. So if we're not asking a lot of questions, it is not a lack of interest. It is we have had an opportunity to ask a lot of questions so far. So I'm very pleased that you are presenting this for the public to see, because I think that they need lots of time to digest what it is that we're contemplating and all of that. So I really appreciate you being here. And I just want people to understand that if it seems like we're mostly going, we get this, it's because we've had a chance to look at this.
All right. Well, so the analysis flows the same in Green Mountain, and now you have a little warm up to it to be able to get through the next part. So we'll start the same with the boundary maps for the Green Mountain articulation area. On the left is the elementary school boundaries, and on the right is the middle school boundary. So we only have one middle school in this articulation area that serves the full population. And just to clarify, those pink, I'll say pinkish holes on the left in the elementary school boundaries, those are the ones that go to Rooney Ranch. The orange goes to Hutchinson Elementary. Purple is Divinity, and then the darker purple is Foothills Elementary. And you can see a red dot up there, which is where Green Mountain Elementary that was closed is located. So we'll start again with what our enrollment was for pre-K through 12th as of September 25th for the schools in this area. I am including Red Rocks Elementary School and Carmody Middle School because those schools are close to this articulation area, and we do have some cross-pollination from this articulation area into those schools and back and forth. We have our capacity numbers for each of the schools. Again, if a school has a star or a cross next to it, it indicates if it has temporary buildings on site or has a preschool program located within the school. We have a column for utilization percentages for each of the schools based on that preliminary enrollment number, our capture rates, and our FCI scores. You can notice that the capture rates are a little bit more varying in this part of the district compared to what we saw in Ralston Valley. This is our choice in and choice out statistics for the same schools. We can see the 23-24 choice in numbers and choice out numbers and percentages. And then on the far right, the 5-year average choice in and choice out. And again, similar to the capture rate, we can see that these are different than Ralston Valley. We have higher percentages of choice in and choice out within this articulation area. Part of why we're looking at Green Mountain and why it's being considered is because we do have some new developments in the Green Mountain area. There is a Red Rocks Ranch development that's currently having houses being built, but we already have 278 homes built. From those 278 homes, we have 75 students. The 905 additional homes will be projected through 28-29. They're primarily single-family units from $800 to $1.2 million. Overall, we are projecting 403 new students that are projected to Jeffco over the next 10 years from those additional 905 homes that are coming online. We also have a development called Indigo. The construction has not yet begun in this development. We are projecting 522 new homes, and they will start being built in the 27-28 school year. They were also primarily single-family units. We're projecting a total of 226 new students to Jeffco starting anytime after 27-28 school year. So a little ways out, and those 226 new students will still be spread out over time. They wouldn't all hit within the same school year. A note in the bottom right, there has been some water rights conversations in this part of our district, and it has been challenges for these new developments to get these houses online, being able to turn on water taps and have some agreement around the water rights in that area. So here are those schools again. The column 24-25 prelim is what I showed you just a minute ago in a different way, where we have the enrollment listed for each of the schools and the utilization, and then we're projecting that enrollment going forward and the utilization rates for the schools. And we can see, Divinity is then coming up to 104%. That's a change of 506 kids up to 523, but it is up to 104%. If we go back a slide, we can see that also Divinity has one of the higher, you can see in the top right, they have a high choice in average of 44.7%. So that's where we talk about some of those levers and looking at some of those pieces of data, if there's ways that we can help with pulling down some of that enrollment to keep it closer to 100% than getting it to 104%. So the same as Ralston Valley, or if we have the impact of status quo and keeping the students, and I apologize, this forecast that I showed you here includes forecasted students from those developments that I mentioned on the previous slide. So this does show the growth, the areas. I apologize, I should have said this. I don't think, do I have a red dot? I don't know if anybody can see it at home. In the bottom left part of the elementary school boundary, close to Red Rocks Elementary, that is close to where these new developments will be in the district. And they are currently boundaried to attend Hutchinson Elementary School. So we can see here, when we look at Hutchinson Elementary, we can see that growth in student enrollment in the years 27, 28, as we are ramping up a lot of those students going into the Hutch Elementary School. And that's what's driving the primary reason why the utilization is increasing at Hutch. So going back to this, no impact. If we keep a status quo with what we see today, we do think that we have the capacity to handle these new families and not impact any current students and families, not change any boundaries. We wouldn't have to do anything around transportation. We will see additional levels of enrollment at Hutchinson and Dunstan schools due to the new developments in that area, but we think that both of those schools, and with the pattern of a lot of choicing in and choicing out across this area, we should be able to accommodate the students that come into the new developments. And now we'll look at the scenario of building a new K-8 school. Again, this is used as an assumption to illustrate the potential impacts. There would be additional conversations about how this all rolls out, but this is assuming when we open the schools that all the students that are in the boundary for the new school would attend the new school. So on the left is our current elementary school boundaries, and then on the right is the building the new K-8. This is where it was contemplated. So again, it's in the lime green with the hatch marks to it and the little red building, and that is land that we have near those developments that was originally held in case we needed to build a new K-8 school there. So that is the location where it was originally contemplated. Because of where the school is and how it would impact our existing elementary schools, we would have to reboundary each of the other elementary schools after that. So you can see each of the boundaries, while they're similar to what's on the left, they're not the same. We do have to kind of change the boundaries for all elementary schools within this articulation area. Middle school, as I mentioned before, we only have one middle school currently to serve this articulation area. This would now create two. So this would take a portion of the Dunstan boundaried middle school students and put them into the new K-8. Here's the comparison view. So the first 5 columns are the current state of what we were projecting and talked about a few slides ago, and the far right 5 columns are and really it's the last 2 are showing the 2 new years where the school would come online in 27, 28. And we can see that as they come online, then we can see that then Hutchinson goes from 82% utilization down to 69%, and there's other impacts across the board because, like I said, we have to change the boundary areas for all the elementary schools here. So if we build a new K-8 in this area, a portion of families who currently live in all elementary, middle school will experience a boundary change. This says 214. I think the 214 is primarily the ones that are related to the K-8 boundary. The district would need to consider exemption privileges for families who are currently enrolled in Jeffco schools. It would take 5 to 9 years to fully realize the impact of the boundary change if we let kids stay in the school that they started. Schools then potentially again would be competing for students as principals seek to offer more choice enrollment seats to make up for the offset if they have a smaller boundary for those elementary schools. And Dunstan Middle School in particular, the long-term sustainability of that school would be at risk going from the school that serves the full articulation area to sharing it. Sorry. Questions?
I think I understand on slide 35, the Red Rocks column or line, but I'm wondering if you, for my fellow board members, would be able to explain why Red Rocks is so high above their capacity numbers.
I can say from a numbers perspective, they have 4 or 5 temp buildings on site. And that's how they get to this 100+ % utilization, because they are able to serve the students in those temp buildings. And that doesn't count in our utilization calculation for building capacity or permanent capacity in those buildings. So from a numbers perspective, that's why it's that high.
Thank you for that explanation. You did it way better than I would. Thanks so much.
Oh, yay.
Thank you for this. This is a lot of work and a lot of effort, and frankly has some really big implications for families. So I know you've put a lot of work into it. Reminder to our listening public, we get to study this stuff in advance, so this probably won't surprise you, but I do want to ask it. I'd be really curious to see what this looked like modeled as a K-5. It's interesting to me, the impact to the middle schools, especially Dunstan. But also seeing some of the elementary schools, I think I would be interested to see those numbers and how that changed some of these charts. The other thing that I am piqued by Director Varda's earlier comments on preschool numbers is, do we know preschool numbers in these areas, or if there's a wait list for some of these schools for preschool? I know these are all K-5, K-6, K-8 middle school, but we've seen in multiple presentations tonight, you know I'm a mom of a preschooler, so I'm sorry to harp on this, our preschool numbers are increasing. And that's wonderful, wonderful news. But I'm curious if we are in a similar spot in the South as we might be in kind of the Lakewood area. So I'd be curious to see those numbers too.
So I don't think I do not have numbers on who's on wait lists for preschools. What I can say, because we did do some studying of preschool, for last school year, there was around 80 preschool students. They are currently either going to Foothills or Hutch. Those are the 2 schools that have a cross next to them that have the preschool enrollment included. I would say it's I think last year it was 53 of those preschoolers went to Foothills and 27 went to Hutch. So we do have them spread out over those 2 schools.
I think it would be fascinating for us to think about what a creative alternative in this region might look like.
The one thing I want to say in response to that is that as it is, Hutchinson struggles to get the kind of student capacity for full programming. And they are in a part of the district where a number of other schools are quite full, and they are not. They have a center program there that's an amazing program. So, I'm all for, sure, let's take a look at what K-5 would do, but I am concerned that it would still leave Hutchinson in the lurch. And it wouldn't quite, I don't think it's not going to replace Hutchinson. It's not going to be able to take up all of those kids. I think we're going to end up with a couple of schools that aren't full. So I am concerned about the impact on Hutchinson.
I also want to go back to the Red Rock situation that looks like it's going to be over capacity no matter what, status quo or if we build a new school. And so I'm wondering, is this something that we can address as a district sooner than the contemplated potential new build? I mean, do we have something going on now to address the schools that still have temporary buildings?
I can try to speak to that a little bit. I think that Red Rocks is in the Bear Creek area. And if you look at Red Rocks and where those kids are coming from, they could definitely go to schools that don't have temporary buildings. Ultimately, we've been trying to remove them. And there are some schools that their community feels really strongly about keeping them and serving students in the way that they are. So we try to keep that in mind. Red Rocks elementary school is one of our very old buildings. And so I think that as we do our strategic capital master plan work over the next 18 months, it will be something that we are looking at. And ultimately, again, these schools also get some choice in how many students they're allowing in and how they're serving them, and they make those decisions with us and with their communities. I don't know if that fully answered your question.
I'll add on because I think that's it answers it somewhat, and I think there's more to it. When you look at this slide, you'll see Red Rocks Elementary School's capacity at 216. So it is architecturally a small school. And, one of the criteria for closures was if it was less than 220. So they've added these temps, and to, no fault of the schools, it's very difficult to provide high quality programming with 216 students. So they use the temps to increase their enrollment, to increase their revenue, and then therefore increase robust programming that they can offer for their students. And we do have people who are coming from the Green Mountain area and choicing in to Red Rocks because it's just west of C470. And so I know from our facilities team's conversations that we have had conversations around the FCI score of Red Rocks. And you can see here it's 12.7. It's not terrible by any means, but it is an older building and it does have a lot of temp buildings. And so could we imagine adding on an addition to that building or rebuilding it or remodeling it in some way? The footprint of where the building is and the land that it sits on is also very tricky. And so it's almost to a point where we would have to move the kids to a different building for a year, build, and then move them back in. And we just don't know where we would do that. But I do think Red Rocks being considered as part of this conversation is really important because families cross boundary or take boundaries in this area. It's just, but in addition to everything Lisa said, it's just a small school. And so they accept these kiddos, have them in the temps, and it's a very popular school.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Nope. So thank you very much for this presentation. We look forward to seeing it again.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Mary, can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Just to clarify, because we keep coming back to this preschool wait list piece, I do want to make sure that we get the board some additional information about preschool wait lists. So the enrollment process for preschool is a bit different than it is for K-12. We don't 100% control it as a school district and enroll Jeffco like we do the K-12 enrollment. Families use the state system to express interest, and then they are waitlisted by the state system. We encourage families to also enroll Jeffco so that we can understand where families land, where they don't land, and sort of control some of the waitlist information. But what I do know is that many of our families are on multiple waitlists, and some families get into different programs and then they don't drop themselves off of this waitlist, which we don't completely control. So I think we need to get you all some additional information about that. And so the demand for preschool in various areas of our community are not black and white, just given the different kinds of preschool we offer, half day, full day, the fact that there's not daycare attached to it, as well as the fact that we are partnering right now with the state due to the UPK initiative on enrollment and waitlisting and which location and placement and special ed with child fines. So it's complicated. And so we'll take some next steps and just try to get some further information to the board about how we determine preschool demand, because it is not as simple as just looking at a wait list given the systems that we are part of at the state level. So that's just important for you guys to know.
Okay, thank you. That does bring us now to the leadership reports. We would be starting with the superintendent.
Great, thank you, Mary. It's been a long meeting tonight, so I'm going to keep my report brief. First, I want to share my appreciation for the board and the time we had together at the end of last month to reflect on the 23-24 school year and set focus areas for my goals this year. I'm really appreciative for the time you committed to my annual evaluation, as well as the thoughtful reflections and feedback that each of you shared with me that are represented in the public memo you accepted tonight. I just really felt like there was a lot of thought and intention put into the conversation that you all had with me, and I very much appreciate it. I know that there was time and effort put into that, so thank you. As you all know, I love the opportunity to get to spend time with our students, so I want to highlight some ways that I've been able to do that. I was at Bell Middle School today. You may have seen this on my Instagram post. They're having a big family event tonight, the type of family event I used to be a part of when my kids went to Bell Middle School. And I toured their mobile art gallery, where they had artwork from the Cherry Creek Arts Festival gallery installed in their library. And then 7th grade students were trained as docents. And so kids invited me over and I said yes. And I stopped by and I had a really nice, 30 to 45 minute tour of the Cherry Creek Arts pieces. And the students shared with me what they knew about the pieces and the artists. And it was really fun. So that was great. Lucy and Emerson were my docents. And I just want to publicly thank Lucy and Emerson for showing me around today. They were very knowledgeable docents. Last week, I was able to spend time with our Jeffco Student Leadership Board at their fall retreat. They told me about all the projects they were going to be engaged in this year, and I know they're very much looking forward to speaking with you guys in the near future again. I ate lunch at all 3 Jefferson Articulation Area schools recently with our students and several of their moms who are engaged and passionate about our food nutrition services pilot. And I want to thank the principals for joining me in those lunches. One time I was with all of you and we were able to eat lunch with Representative Pedersen. Is that right? Yes, we were there with her. And I've gone back. And all 3 schools have had lovely lunches. And Mr. Gatlin joined me too. So thank you, Mr. Gatlin, for that. I did also attend the Columbine Chatfield football game at the beginning of this month. During the pregame, it was a very special evening. Both schools partnered to host a special ceremony for Janet Lowry, who served as a longtime FACS teacher at Chatfield High School. And tragically, she is terminally ill. Her husband, Andy, is Columbine's. Oh my gosh, Columbine will be very mad at me if I said Chatfield instead of Columbine. So Janet Lowry did serve as a FAC teacher at Chatfield, and her husband, Andy, is Columbine's longtime high school football coach. And the way that the 2 communities came together in honor of 2 long-term educators who care deeply about both of those communities was really special to see, especially given the incredible rivalry that exists between Columbine and Chatfield. It was really special. And we say often, as a staff, we say often that Jeffco we're really big, but we can get really small really fast. And that was a great example of how our community comes together in support of one another in really special ways. So that was one of my favorite things I've done. And then Monday was Veterans Day. And I want to thank our veterans for their service, including the incredible Drew Scheel. who runs the AV and streaming for our board meetings, and much, much more. Speaking of honoring our veterans, I want to thank Green Mountain High School for including me in their Veterans Day breakfast. It was a very snowy day. There were many people who were not happy about being out on the roads, and I heard all of the feedback. Thank you. Please know that I heard you. But our veterans were there at 7:30 in the morning, ready to have a warm, catered breakfast by the incredible staff at Green Mountain High School. And many students came as well and sat and had breakfast with our veterans. So that was really special. I also want to mention that the Arvada Aquatic Center is nearing completion, and I had the opportunity to attend a reception for the impending opening of this incredible pool last week. Holy cow, it's amazing. I know all of our competitive swimmers will be excited to have access to this new facility. And finally, the district hosted its annual Better Together Day yesterday. And I want to give a special shout out to the more than 75 people on our central services teams who participated in vendor demonstrations for the district's ERP project over the past 3 weeks. This is an incredibly important project for our district, as you all know. It's going to allow us to modernize our operations systems in ways that will enhance our ability to serve our schools and individual staff members. These are the folks who are often behind the scenes working with our system. And I want to say how thankful I am to each of them for their investment of time and energy in this important work, which collectively totaled thousands of hours and thousands of pieces of feedback as the district works through this complicated RFP process. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Applegate, do you want to go next?
Sure thing. Well, I did have quite a busy couple weeks, and I just want to lift up, I think, to begin with, that I've heard a lot of concerns about funding lately, whether it's the title funding or whether it's the announcement by the governor. Our families are listening and our families are watching, and they are raising their concerns, which I really appreciate. So for those listening, keep it coming. It's good to hear, and it's good to engage and see how people are showing up. So we are aware and we are working through a lot of those things, but I just want to lift up that that's been a more consistent message that I've heard in the last couple of weeks than I feel like I had in the previous month or two. Got to attend a really interesting CAC meeting, and a huge shout out to Lisa and Shanine, because you guys have done a ton of work and presenting to that, and Mr. Gatlin also. We got to attend a breakfast with some of our Jeffco electeds, which was also really great. I know many of you all were with me at that. I had a ton of schools to visit on our snow day, which are quickly being rescheduled, but I have gotten to some schools, and I'm really happy about that. I got to see Arvada High School and Wheat Ridge High School and Hackberry Hills. There's more coming that are being rescheduled, and I'm sad that I missed those. Got to attend something really special at Wheat Ridge High School also this week. They did a ribbon cutting for their new STEM lab, and I got to attend with Dr. Kim, and there's a very cool picture out there of all female engineers and technical women who are standing there ready to cut that ribbon. And it was really, really cool. And then a fourth grader that got stuck in that picture too. So he had to come with me. But a big thank you to the Gill Foundation. It's really incredible. I found out we have the largest 3D printer in the Denver metro area that lives at Wheat Ridge High School. I could fit in it. It's huge. It's amazing. So these kids are building cars with it. They are building battle bots. They are doing all the coolest stuff. So it's just a great example that we have these treasures in all of our high schools, and it was really special to be able to see it. Another shout out to Mr. Gatlin, because it was the first time I got to see the renos at Wheat Ridge, and they look really good. So thank you for that. And then I just want to lift up that to our preschool families, it's a theme tonight apparently, there are kindergarten information nights. And so if you are a parent of a preschooler who is in one of our center programs or is not in Jeffco yet, next week are a lot of kindergarten information nights. And so I know we're working to get some of those out and share some of that information. Please go. Check them all out. They're super cool. Our elementary schools are awesome. You also should know that Enroll Jeffco opens in December. A lot of preschool parents are new parents in our district and haven't gone through a full enrolled Jeffco cycle. And so we're trying to put some materials out at Campbell and Norma Anderson to help parents who are new to the system understand what they need to do. And lastly, I have a town hall next week, Wednesday the 20th at Arvada West. Come say hi. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Okay, I had a busy month as well. I attended the CASB Fall Conference in Pueblo, and I always like going to those conferences because I get a chance to talk to people from all kinds of different areas, districts, and so forth. I did ask them, everyone I met, about their process for renewing charter schools. I thought I'd try to get a feel for what other districts do. And I just want to highlight one district that I was talking to, the superintendent and a member of their board, and they said they just went through the renewal process for their one charter that they had in the district, and that charter had been there. Their contract was for 25 years. So the charter school had been there 25 years, and finally they were up for renewal, and the charter school was looking for another 25 years, and the board member said, I think we're going to go for 5 this year, just to see. Anyway, but I always do enjoy talking to other districts. There's quite a range in Colorado. I did school visits, also got snowed out of some of them, but I got to Dutch Creek, Columbine Hills, Normandy, Leawood, Coronado, Deer Creek, Stony Creek, and Falcon Bluffs. And then Superintendent Dorland and I had the pleasure of going to Ute Meadows, where we had this greeting. It was almost like a red carpet that we went down, and it was fantastic. We did get interviewed too when we were there. Superintendent Dorland has posted it on social media, and I got interviewed too, and I have to make a correction because my question of would you rather swim with sharks or dolphins, sounded like a no-brainer. So of course I said a dolphin, but I want to correct that because there's a whale shark out there. And actually my daughter has swum with the whale sharks in the ocean because they're the only sharks that don't have teeth that are predator types. So they just have these huge mouths, like 5 feet wide. And if you're brave enough, you start to swim right towards them, and at the last minute, they'll go away because they don't want to eat you. But I can't imagine doing it. But also, I did attend Woodrow Wilson Academy with Director Varda. We went to the elected officials breakfast, which is always fun. I did hold my town hall meeting at Conifer High School 2 nights ago, which was really fun up there. Different set of types of people, I guess, the mountain people. But also there was a Cub Scout group that was there, and they were getting their badge for elected official campaigns kind of thing. So they asked me questions at the end, which was great. And then a highlight, I wish I had a picture to put on the slide. Mr. Gatlin and I went and worked in the kitchen, as I mentioned earlier, at Dunstan Middle School. And I do have a picture of Mr. Gatlin, me, and Linda. And you can imagine the difference in heights. It was like they had to stand back at the end of the room to get us all in the picture. But anyway, it was wonderful. It was so much fun. And we worked on their hamburgers and their pumpkin pies. And then got to see, I at least stayed and saw the 6th graders come through for the cafeteria. So it was a good month.
Alrighty. Because of the snow, my time has not been as busy as I was originally anticipating that it would be. I had a chance to meet with Brian Martin to learn about the Outdoor Lab Foundation. And that was really fun to get filled in on, some of the things that have gone on through history, because I went to Outdoor Lab myself a million years ago, and he was saying, it probably hasn't really changed all that much, but that it was really fun to find out what the Outdoor Lab Foundation does to really help maintain those facilities and make sure kids have a really extraordinary experience there. I just love getting a chance to do student town halls. And I had a phenomenal student town hall at the Jeffco Open School because it was like all of their high school students. So it wasn't even just a small little group, which is kind of what's happened before. It was a full auditorium. And great questions and smart kids that are engaged and care very much about their education and everyone else's education. And they care about each other. They care about the world. It was very heartwarming and definitely one of those bucket filling things. Really enjoyed the brief period of time at the Principal Appreciation Gathering at 240 Union. It's nice to just sit and chat with principals, and it's not part of the school visit where it's kind of structured and I have these questions and they have these concerns and, but actually more personal conversation. And it was just kind of fun to relax and get to know principals that I see fairly regularly, but just in a much more informal setting. So I enjoyed that. Another really fun thing, it's kind of along the same lines as your town hall, is that I actually went to a Cub Scout meeting for Troop 748, which was my son's Cub Scout troop a million years ago, and also his Boy Scout troop. And they were also working on their election badge. So a chance to talk with them, and they were very energetic, perhaps not totally enthusiastic about learning about elections, but they were having a very good time together, and they were very sweet to me. So yeah, all my school visits got canceled. Let's see, I thought I had a few others on here, but maybe I don't. The legislative breakfast it's always an enjoyable thing. It is heartening to hear our elected officials talk about how much they appreciate the fact that we have a legislative agenda. So kudos to you, President Parker, for really pushing to get us to do that more thoughtfully and in a more formal way. And hearing them talk about the fact that as the second largest school district, we have clout and we should be using it. So I appreciated hearing that. And then I had my town hall last night, and it also was different than my previous one because I was handing off my mountain schools to you, and then I had some different schools. It was very well attended, and I was super glad to see that. It was quite a full library. A number of people from Edgewater, and I urged them to come and speak tonight. So that's one of the reasons that we had so many folks here that they were very concerned about the funding for their school. But it was a lively town hall and addressed a lot of concerns. And then I had an inbox full of lovely thank you notes this morning, which was also really nice. So, gosh, I'm loving the town halls just in general, going really well. So that's been my month.
Yeah, I've enjoyed a couple of town halls recently as well. I'm going to save those for a little bit later. I'm going to say I had a delicious chicken tinga taco from the Edgewater, Scratch Food Initiative, and thoroughly enjoyed eating lunch with my lunch companions at the table who were asking me about my, favorite foods were, and we had so much fun. That was a highlight. I also want to lift up that I had a town hall on Monday this week. This week has been full, so I'm struggling. I'm trying to hold on to what day it is. But on Monday, we had not a huge turnout, but enough that we had a really comfortable community conversation. I really appreciated it for my first one. It was a nice way to step into that work. Lots of questions about boundary line adjustments and what we studied this evening. There were questions right along the line with that. I got to talk about High School Reimagined for folks who hadn't heard a lot about that work. That was really exciting. Anyway, I think it went really well, and I'm just grateful to Principal V. Hill at Bear Creek High School for hosting, and for several of our other principals who were there and also helping me to answer questions that were more detailed than what I had access to. So just appreciated it. It felt like a really great community conversation. And then I got to have a student town hall at Evergreen on yesterday. That went so well that they have made plans to ask me to come back on a monthly basis so that we can have more conversation, which I thought was really exciting. They had questions from how do we make snow day decisions, all the way to what do I think the biggest issue is facing public education, to how are we supporting special ed communities. I mean, really thoughtful conversation with those students, and I look forward to spending more time with them. Then after that, I stopped by Evergreen Middle School completely unannounced, and I think I may have thrown off some of their staff, but I think I was gentle about it. They have a program where they are raising trout in a huge fish tank that starts from the fish eggs, all the way through relatively mature enough to be released into the wild. And when I was there visiting in September, they hadn't started that yet, and I knew they were going to, and since I was proximate, I just went to see how it was going. And I saw all of these little teeny tiny fishies and got to talk to the librarian for a great amount of time. I was really grateful for how much time she spent with me, being that I was unannounced, explaining the program to me and telling me about the work and the enthusiasm from the students and the crossover with conversations about conservation and environmentalism. It's just an incredible STEM opportunity and learning opportunity in a middle school. And I was like giddy with excitement and joy when I left after that conversation. I know there are other schools in our district also participating in that program, and I just want to say how amazing I think that whole partnership is with some of our state agencies to provide education to our kids and really engaging STEM opportunity. So cool. I enjoyed our legislative breakfast and had some really interesting conversations regarding what's coming up in our legislative session this year. I'm looking forward to being engaged in that and being present up on Capitol Hill so that I can see what is going on with public education in Colorado, especially as we face tough budget conversations at the state level. And last night, I got to attend a pom competition at Columbine High School, the first one I've ever attended as a school board member. I was a dancer in high school and college, and I was a coach when I was a teacher, and I am so familiar with being at those competitions, but being there sort of unknown in that gym and getting to watch all of the teams, I was so filled with joy and hope at what was happening with those teams, the way the community was supportive of one another. It felt so good to be sitting in a gym at 7:30 at night watching high school creativity. That was such a gift that filled my bucket all the way up to overflowing. And I didn't talk to anybody really there. I just was observing and trying to keep a low profile. I did see a principal who recognized me when that was good, but otherwise, I just loved sitting and watching the community be together, listening to music, dancing, supporting, cheering for each other. I was sitting up at the top screaming at various points and I left before the results came out because I just didn't want to know because they were all so good. And I just they were amazing. I look forward to doing more of that as well. And thank you to the CHA, the high school, CHASA, for the pass to be able to get in there. It was really easy to attend. So what else did I want to say? I want to specifically lift up gratitude to the DAC subcommittee on charter applications and renewals for their research and information, along with the time that they have spent on discussion and consideration. Those were really valuable assets to me to help me understand and draw conclusions. I know it's frustrating that they were asked not to give specific recommendations, and I understand that. And I thoroughly appreciate the document that they did present to us because it gave me a lot of perspective and thoughtful feedback that I maybe would not have considered on my own just reading through the applications. So I know that they put a lot of effort into, discussing the new process this year and the document that they were using as a guideline. I know it was difficult because it was also a compressed timeline for them. And I just want to share with everybody involved as we implemented a new process this year around renewals in the charter conversation. Brene Brown says that there are unique challenges anytime something is tried for the first time. She has different language for that. I'm not going to go there, but just that I think our process regarding charter accountability continues to improve because we've leaned into partnerships between our community members and our charter partners specifically. So I'm grateful for the work that happened there. I know that it wasn't always comfortable, but there was a lot of effort put in there, and I wanted to honor that and express my gratitude. Also, thank you to the Carmody students who performed for us tonight. That was super duper fun. I also am going to lift up some concerns that I've heard from families, including my own, around struggling in some schools to access aftercare on a regular and predictable basis. My own family has been impacted by that. I know that it's happening not in every school, but in some of our schools that have aftercare programs. And I want to say that I empathize. I did have to take one of my students out of school early so that I could come here for a meeting that I had. And thankfully, he was thoroughly entertained by markers and paper while he was here. But I know that there are other parents, working parents, who are struggling with making the afternoons and evenings work because of the scramble to find aftercare when it's not available readily and in a predictable manner. And also thanks to our SAE staff. I know they're doing the best that they can. But hopefully we can find some solutions moving forward. I've kept an eye on tax initiatives that were run by neighboring school districts, and I'm looking forward to learning more about their processes and outcomes, hopefully at the CASB meeting that's coming up next month. I think that they will have a lot of valuable information that they can share with us as we look towards our own future around running tax initiatives. And I lastly want to express congratulations to Director Applegate and I on our 1-year anniversary as it approaches at our next study session. Actually, the date was December 5th. I won't ever forget it. And also to Paula, Director Reed, for telling me when I first agreed to run that the first year would be like drinking from a fire hose for the entire year. That was wisdom that I've held with me for the last 12 months. Looking forward to maybe the fire hose slowing a little bit now that we're a full year in, but I remain grateful to get to gulp. Okay. I'm really looking forward to continuing to do this work, and I'm grateful that I get to be here in this position. I know that this is an honor and opportunity to serve the community. I'm just still so grateful to be here and to be serving with all of you and to be working with the district staff and our families. It's just an honor to get to sit here. So thank you, everybody, for our first year in.
I am going to pick my top 3 things that I did. I've done a lot with our arts and music stuff in our area. I've been to an area choir concert, area orchestra concert, and got to see Murder on the Orient Express at A West. My mother was a huge Agatha Christie fan, so it was really fun to see that. Sorry. And then I also got to do my Pomona Town Hall, student town hall, which was just like the way you all described it. And the students were their leadership group. This is the school that is now a 612. So it was pretty awesome to get to ask them how that's going and to hear their questions. We talked about what's going well and what they have challenges with. One of my favorite things was one of the wrestlers saying that his 6th grade brother was like so excited to be around the older wrestlers in the school. So like that connection between the younger ones and the older one was the very first thing that this guy wanted to talk about. And there was a lot of examples of that and confusing things. They're told, be mentors, but you can't be in the bathroom together, so like things they're trying to sort out just because they're trying to figure out how to keep the I should explain that, the separation of the grades there. I also went to the Engage Arvada meeting just a few weeks ago. It was held at North Arvada, and I just am always incredibly impressed with these people who come and sit for hours and engage with each other and folks from the district, and really just put their whole heart into trying to think about what is going well and where they are struggling in their area and how they can work together. And they've come up with some great ideas, and I just really respect and honor their leadership in that community for doing that work. The only other thing I was gonna add that the info nights, like every single school will have an info night over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, do take a look at those, because you can really learn a lot about the schools. And I was just gonna say lastly that my my next town hall is at Pomona on December 12th, which is actually the same night as our elementary school's Winterfest, which will be my last one in, let's see, 10 years. And so I'm trying to decide which one to go to. Just kidding. We just didn't, I didn't look at the calendar very well. So anyways, the town hall is, unless you're going to the Winterfest, you might want to come to the town hall on December 12th at Pomona. So yeah, thanks. So sorry I get worked up because it was really fun to see my daughter doing like a play. You're like, oh, I should have given up on it. A play that I know my mom would have loved.
Thank you. That does bring us to the end of today's agenda. We will stand adjourned. Our next meeting is a study session of the board scheduled at 4:30 p.m. on December 11th at the Ed Center. Good night, everyone.